Although they did start working with the Beals revolver in the year of 1856, it would not be the same as what you think of the Remington New Model Army today.
And if you're like me, you're into the history stuff, the books, like the guns, are worth their weight in gold. Because a gun, it's fun to shoot, it's fun to point with, but without the story there, if you're a history person like I am, without the story, it really doesn't mean all that
The Ruger Security 9.
Can I redraw?
You already looked?
No.
You sure
Alright.
you did?
Now on 3.
Another pro, at least a pro to me, is these guns are kind of a project. I like to look at them as I'm getting an advanced kit build in the mail whenever I get one. So it's a project that you can go down the road and you can either leave it as
Most people believe that the Walker was Colt's first extent to a very, very large pistol, but it wasn't. This was. This is Colt's 1839 to patent firearms revolving carbine pistol. It is massive.
Well, hello, everybody. This is going to be a strange one because I had planned to have some people on tonight, but didn't work out. And so it's just me for the moment. Duke got called into work, kind of a last-minute deal, and Snapper is going to be late if he gets here at all. So it's just me and you. If you can put up with me for a little while, we probably won't go real long unless Snapper shows up. But I will just be reading your comments and we'll just have a conversation. Just you and I. Hey, I looked at the camera. You guys like that instead of looking at the screen? My camera's above my screen, so if I look at the screen, I'm not looking at you. So anyway, without further ado, can everybody hear me okay? All right. Because I don't have anybody to bounce my microphone off of and make sure it's working. All right, so tonight we have Diane Houston says, good evening, all. Vaquero Joel said, good evening, one and all. Finally getting to watch it live again. You all live? Well, unfortunately, it's just me. By the way, if my face looks red, it's because I don't have on any black this time. That's why I always wear either a black hat or a black shirt, because otherwise it washes everything out red on me. Looks like I'm sunburned. Look like Brother Love. Anyway, Turkey Creek 1823 is here. He says, TC here. Hi, Turkey Creek. Joshua Harris says, good evening, everyone. Brandon Birch said, great to see y'all again, ready for some laughing and learning. Well, I don't know how much of that there will be today, but we'll give it our best shot. Let's see. Doug Duke says, good evening, all. Rock McLaughlin says, good evening, Rock from Tennessee, waiting for the show. Well, here we go. Doug Duke said, Duke, I got a question. The picture you posted of you in your new pants and vest, the pistol belt, how wide was it? 1.5? Well, if he happens to pop up in the chat or something, I'll remind me and we'll ask him. Louisiana Gray said, a good evening to all. Kodak Tackman said, what's going on? Louisiana Gray said, good evening to all. Texan 1836 said, evening, fellas. Question. Let's see. Do I need to go to all of your pages on another device to ensure you all get likes? Well, I guess if you want to. Deja Vu's in. Joshua Harris said, okay, we'll get to that question in just a second, Josh, because that'll be where we start. Franklin Horse said, howdy. Robert said, strange is good sometimes. Mill Creek said, hello, everyone. Finally get to sit and watch another live show. It's been a while. Well, I hope it don't disappoint because it's just me. AR Americans in. He said, hey, Garrett. Louisiana Gray says, that's what I do. Texan Rock McLaughlin said, here, fine. You're good. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Sounds great. Sounds good. Hearing you loud and clear in New Zealand. We got West Covina Dodge. Martin Kavanaugh. David W. said hello, Garrett. Hello to you. Gunsmith 4570. Desert Rat 45. Louisiana Gray said good evening all. Chris Bird said here for as long as the signal holds out, streaming here in Florida. Oregon Outback says we don't mind you being on by yourself. Just try not to talk over yourself. I will try. I do that all the time. I just did it right there again. But anyway, yeah. So Ethan's running the channel now, and he's been running the Reload show. But the Army called him up a little bit for something kind of unexpected, not for too long, I hope. But so he was gone to start with, and then one by one, our normal people had things come up that, and it doesn't happen very often, but it did this time. So unless Snapper happens to pop in, it's just me. Maybe Plowboy pops in a little later. I sent him a link. I don't know if he got it or not. But anyway, without further ado, Joshua Harris said, question. I'm looking at an affordable kit. I'd love to build a Kibler, but a little out of my budget. I'm looking at Invest Arms Gimmer Hawk and Flintlock 50. What's your opinions on that kit? Well, I haven't had the actual Invest Arms Gimmer, but I've had the very close Lyman Great Plains rifle, which was the same thing. It's about as close as you're going to get to the authentic thing as far as a Hawken goes. Now, a few caveats to throw in there, and I'm sure that Turkey Creek 1823 can back me up on this. The Flintlock Hawken, we do know that, I think we know that some of those existed, especially the quote-unquote Super Hawken that Ashley probably took on the first round, which would have been a very early Hawken. But it was a long stock flinter. The only trouble I have with the Flintlock Hawkins is there's just not a lot of evidence, shall we say, that there was ever a half-stock Flintlock Hawken. However, there were half-stock rifles that were Plains rifles that were Flintlock. As a matter of fact, I've seen some half-stocked Jaegers. As a matter of fact, Kale's bidding on one right now, which is kind of a funny thing because they're extremely early in the 18th century. But there was a half-stock Jaeger. It's all authentic that Caleb's looking to bid on. And, of course, if you want something like that, the 1803 Harper's Ferry is basically a half-stock Hawken with a round barrel, of course. But it's a half-stock Hawken short gun that has a flintlock on it. So, yeah, that's pretty close. I don't have anything against the Flintlock half stocks. Like I said, obviously they're not 100% correct, but the only things I would say that's wrong with them historically is it's a coil spring lock, which you can upgrade that lock to an L&R if it's a right-handed lock on, I believe, on that gun, unless I'm mistaken. No, I'm pretty sure you can if you wanted to, but I mean, the coil spring probably works just fine. The only other thing I'd say is there's a little bit of a belly on the stock that wouldn't be there on the true Hawken. But like I said, as far as the Hawken kits go, the Invest Arms Gimmer, as long as you get it with iron mountings, is about as authentic as you're going to get out of a kit gun for, you know, out of a what I would say a beginner's kit gun, not like when I say kit gun, I could be referring like a Track of the Wolf kit gun, which is not a beginner's kit gun whatsoever. But yeah. All right. So I hope that answered your question. As far as, like I said, as far as the Invest Arms Gimmer goes, I had the Lyman Great Plains and cap lock left-handed. It was a great rifle. I wound up selling it for something. I can't remember what, but yeah, they're really, really close. I would go check out Ethan Yazel's I Love Muzzleloading. There is a interview he does on that channel with, come on, TC, why can't I think of his name? He wrote the book on Hawkins here recently. I'll think of it eventually. The new Hawken Authority, after the old Hawken Authority was Hanson Jr. The new Hawken Authority starts with a W. I can't think of his last. I'll think of it in a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. And here I am rattling on. So yeah, if you guys have any questions out there, throw them out in the chat because that's really all I got to talk about. And most of my study here lately has been in the 1800s. So, or you could throw any time period out there. But yeah, that's what we'll talk about. Let's see. Let me go on through here. Let's see. Jolly Jake Lovell said, open all three up in different tabs and pretend to have a trio. There you go. Then there's three of us. Deja Vu said, I'm glad you're still doing this. Well, like I said, we'll try as long as we can. Louisiana Gray. Sorry, guys, if I say a lot. I always edit my uhs out in videos, but I say it a lot when I have to carry the conversation. Louisiana Gray said, I tried to call them in on all three channels. Normal People, Kodak Tackman said. Louisiana Gray said, comment on all three channels. Kent said, good evening, awesome people. Happy Wednesday. Well, happy Wednesday to you, too. Let's see. West Covina Dodge said, I'm broke, but that Kibler Fowler looks great. Yes, I did. I see that. He's coming out with it. And if I wasn't so convinced right now that I want to move up to a little harder kit, that's probably the one I would be doing. But right now I have my eyes set on a Jen Chambers Mark Silver Virginia rifle in 62 caliber. It's kind of my, not that I need a 62 caliber, but I've found a couple references to them in the fur trade. And I feel like even though it's an earlier rifle, it would fit right in. So it's going to go with my 1800s fur trade persona. But yeah, that Fowler looks like it's going to be sweet. And if I don't think he could make the kits any easier to build from Kibler's. Okay. The movie Jeremiah Johnson, which model Hawken gun he used? None of them. I have to go back and think, but I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's a Thompson Center because it's pretty early, but it's a half stock. I think it has 2 keys, so that's right. But it's a lighter colored wood. It has brass mountings, maybe a German silver nose cap, but neither of the guns that he used there, they look like either Spanish or Italian guns. Neither of them really look like a Hawken. For all I know, they could have been original plains rifles because that was pretty early for, I'm sure Turkey Creek could tell you better than me, and Duke could tell you better too. But they were brass-mounted plains rifles, if I recall right. And so they could have been an early CVA mountain rifle. That's possible. I think one of them did have 2 wedges, but neither of them were what would actually be considered what looks like a true Hawken in any shape or form. But that movie did a lot for the Hawken name, brand, people. It's funny because the guns that people call Hawkins are actually a lot closer to half-stock Lehmans. I mean, that round patch box and everything, they're pretty close to a historical gun. It's just not a Hawken. A lot of the brass-mounted Thompson Center guns and stuff like that, they're actually really close to a Lehman. So, which that's actually would have been more common in the mountains post-1835 than a Hawken would have. Hawkins were they were rare. As a matter of fact, when somebody saw a mountain man with a Hawken, they were there. But if you saw a mountain man with a Hawken, people made note of it, and that's why they show up in letters and whatnot. It's because people are like, ooh. That'd be like, you got your guy down here driving your Honda Civic, and then another guy over here is driving a Corvette, with the Honda Civic being a Northwest trade gun and the Hawken being the Corvette. Doesn't mean everybody's got Corvettes. We just made note of that guy because he had one. Very expensive gun. Yeah, Franklin Horse said they make great crowbars. That's what Duke tells me. Yeah, I Love Muzzleloading has a series of videos on building the Gimmer, Duke says. Yes, he does. And Woodfill, Bob Woodfill, I think is his name, who he has that interview with. Scroll down there and see if. Yeah, I think that's his name. That I was trying to think of earlier that I Love Muzzleloading has the interview with, and he goes through exactly how to make a Gimmer and Vest Arms Hawken into one that's really close to an authentic one. Desert Rat said, I found a half-stock flintlock that was made in the late 1790s that sold at auction. The photos were Hawken-ish, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and they existed, but they weren't Hawkins. But like I said, if you look at the 1803 Harper's Ferry, it's very Hawken-like. I mean, very, very Hawken-like. And I believe one of the Hawkins actually, I think it was Jake Hawken actually worked at Harper's Ferry when they were turning those out and probably took some inspiration from that. But the Hawkins style rifle, it's just a name of a gun that was being built all over the country at the time. And, that's just one version of the Plains rifle, but they were very high end versions. And that's why they were so expensive. They were high end guns. They were good guns. But if you were a trapper going out with a company, and even if that company had bought Hawkins, they would give the trappers going out. A lot of times the way it worked was you would pick up your stake, your gear at the first of the year when you went out, and then you would pay the company back for all that out of your first fur haul. And it was half the price to get a smoothbore, and they were more versatile. And so there was a lot of smoothbores went. A lot of companies supplied smoothbores for their guys, but a lot of guys went to rifles eventually. But there was the Ketlen trade rifle. There was a lot of English-made trade rifles coming in that were actually way, way cheaper than a Hawken even themselves. So even the rifles that were there, I've seen a lot of Ketlins. I've seen a lot of Henrys and Derringers. It's funny names, I know. But they're actual rifles that were made in America, a couple of them. But, Lehman's later on, a lot more kind of mass-produced common rifles instead of the Hawkins, which were a higher-end gun. Yes, thank Turkey Creek. Bob Woodfill is the name I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. Louisiana Gray said, I do meal for 48 hours. Oh, you talking about... Okay. Sorry, I missed your comment here. Louisiana Gray said this may be off topic, but when you're milling your antique muzzleloading powder, does it all cake to the bottom even though it's laying on its side? Yeah, it does. It will always work itself to the bottom of that deal. And so what I do is I go out there every 8 or 10 hours and I'll take just a hammer and turn that plastic upside down because I'm using a PVC jar, tap on it, beat it down, shake it around a little bit, and then put it back on and do that 2 or 3 times every 24 hours. I'm not milling mine for 48 hours like Jake is. I probably should. I've kind of settled on what I want for my powder. It's between GoX and Swiss now. It's taken me a little while to get it there. Not as fast as Swiss, a little faster than GoX, but I'm happy with it because anytime I try to get it hotter, it starts getting dirtier. And I'm not experimenting with all the stuff that Jake is. Jake's always experimenting moving forward. I have a good supply of willow charcoal, and that's what I'm sticking with. So I've found what works for me. And yeah, it's not as good as his or a lot of other people's, but that's where I'm sticking with. And my 24-hour mill of just plain old willow charcoal, skylighter, potassium nitrate, and sulfur working out pretty good for me. And I'm still using lead media. So anytime I get it any hotter by using more compression than I should or whatever, it starts getting dirty. Joshua Harris said, thanks. I will check that all out. I only want a flint because caps are hard to come by, and I want to learn to make my own caps. Well, that's a very good reason to go with a flint gun then. Have I ever shot a mule ear or a side slapper lock? Any thoughts? No, I have not. I've seen them. I've handled them, but I've never actually put a charge through one. You're talking about the one that the hammer swings from the side. No, I have not. I wish I could give you some thoughts on that, just having fun, but I haven't shot any. Robert said, okay, awesome. Thanks very much. Gots Loco said, I stumbled on a Remington rolling block. Refreshing my memory of the history would be good. I'm not that versed in the Remington rolling block as I am in the trapdoors, but the long and short of it is they come out during the Civil War in a rimfire with a split breech action, they called it. And after the Civil War, when centerfire cartridges come out, they convert it to a centerfire action. And they put it in 43 Spanish because the United States does not adopt it when they are backing up to the, I call it the Peabody trials. The trials of 1865 at the end of the Civil War. The main issue the United States military has with the Remington rolling block is in order to load it, you have to put the hammer on full cock pull the latch all the way open, put your cartridge in, shut it, and you are automatically on full cock. And when firing in lines like they were at the time of the military doctrine, they were worried that guys in the back lines would be shooting guys in the front lines because they couldn't go to a half-cock safety, at least not right away. Whereas the trapdoor, you could put the gun on half-cock to load it, which was safe, and then you went to full cock to fire. They didn't have a safety notch per se on the trapdoor at the time. It was a 2-position tumbler, so only half-cock and full cock. But half-cock had the deep notch. It was perfectly safe to use. That's one of the reasons that the trapdoor was chosen over the rolling block. The other was the trapdoor had ejection. And at that point, the rolling block did not. And so you had to stop every time and pluck the shell out and then get your next shell in, whereas that was all one motion with the trapdoor. So those were the two main things they were concerned about, safety and the ejection. The other thing that they were a little bit concerned about was some people were afraid that the action, which there was no worry of it, the action's plenty strong. The cartridge had nothing except for the rolling block behind it if something failed, which that was never going to happen. In 1870, they gave the action of the rolling block to Erskine S. Allen, who invented the trapdoor, and he proceeded to take that in the Springfield Armory and make it to where when you closed it, it would automatically fall to a half-cock position, and he also gave it ejection. And so the two main issues were taken care of, and they actually ran from 1870 to 1872, United States, with a complete adoption of a 50-70 rolling block trapdoor. The real issue that they wound up having with it was just way too expensive to produce. I think they might have made 10,000 in that time period, and they had to go back to hand fitting them because they did not have machinery that would produce that action. They even actually, surprisingly, I found they converted some 64 and 65 Springfield muzzle loaders. They cut the barrel off and they cut the stock off, and they inserted the action in the middle of it and converted those Springfield muzzle loaders to rolling blocks. It was kind of a weird deal. The Navy decided they liked the rolling block, though, no matter what. And so even though the Army dumped it in 1873 to go with the trapdoor, the Navy held on to their rolling blocks for quite a while. Go check out the video by Land and Sea. He's been on here a few times. He's a naval guy. He does naval firearms history, and he has an entire video on the history of the rolling block in the United States Navy. But after that, the United States is pretty well done with the rolling block, at least for a while. And it winds up going overseas, and it's in the 43 Argentine, 43 Spanish, and 43 Egyptian, I believe. The one I have is 43 Spanish. 43 Spanish is almost identical to 4477 Buffalo cartridge, but not quite. They're not quite interchangeable. And that's pretty well where it found its market, was overseas, until it became even up to like right before World War I. And I don't know the history of that. It's a CN Arsenal thing. They go to a centerfire 7mm cartridge in a Remington rolling block. And so, yeah, that's about all I know about it. It's kind of like the AR versus the AK today, where the AK goes all over the world and becomes everybody's arm except America. America sticks with the AR, and everybody else gets the AK, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, the gun saved Remington as a factory, and it's a very strong action. It gets, in my mind, a lot of people give it more credit than it deserves, to say the least, against the trapdoor, because both of those guns can perfectly handle 45-70 black powder. However, the rolling block can handle big cartridges. The rolling block can handle your 50-90s, your 51-10s. It's a very strong action. So I hope that answers your questions there. I don't know everything about rolling blocks, but I know a little, and I've shot quite a few. Definitely the 43 Spanish mostly. Vaquero Joel, I had a carbine 45-70 once years ago that was made by Pedersoli, and I sold it. I wish I hadn't. It was kind of a cool little gun. Vaquero Joel said, have you had any trouble with your H&R officers models? I've had 2 of them, and the thumb latch has given out on both. The first, it was just the set screw that needed modifying. Yeah, I've heard that. And a lot of people, it's kind of funny because during my research, I kept running across these people who were talking about their trapdoor thumb pieces coming off. And the more I read about these, were all 1970s guys, and they weren't talking about originals. They were talking about the H&R models. And some of the H&R models do have trouble with one of the screws that you supposedly have to Loctite in place. But mine has not given us any of that trouble. I think we've probably put about 100 rounds through it. It's not actually mine, it's Caleb's. But we put 100 rounds of the big 500 grains cartridges through it, and I haven't had any trouble whatsoever. I think it's probably an earlier model thing than ours is, but I couldn't guarantee you what it was. But yeah, that's actually a lot of myth about the trapdoor action being weak actually comes from the 1970s and the guys using H&R models that have a bad setup in the thumb latch that's not on the originals. My current thumb latch piece is broken and needs welding. Yeah, I don't know anything about it other than what I've read, and mine's not giving me any fits whatsoever. Let's see. Jolly Jake Lovell said, the Hawken in the mountains is like everyone with a Remington Model 70 at deer camp, and then the guy with the Rigby shows up. That's exactly right. Everybody with the Remington Model 70s, the guys with the smooth bores and the trade rifles, and the guy with the Rigby, that's the Hawken. Exactly. And Turkey Creek said, yes, it was Jake that worked at Harper's Ferry. Yeah, I knew it was one of the two, but at one point I was personally going to do a series on the Hawken rifles because I'd heard all the stuff. And so I got the books and I got to digging into it. And I was like, there's just not enough here to actually do a series on, because technically in the actual Hawken era, 1823 to 1860, as far as I know, according to Hansen anyway, they only made about 5,000 guns that entire run. And there's just not a lot of history to go with them. They do change, they go from full stock, obviously flint stocks that look like Pennsylvania style rifles, they go down to the half stocks and the shorter guns, shorter barrels, but literally so does everybody else in the country at the time. So it's just one of those things that I studied it and I was like, maybe someday I'll make one video on it, but there's just not enough history there to cover everything. Yes, you have your guys that had them. You had your Bridgers and people like that had them years later, but that was years later when they could afford them, when they were famous enough. Franklin Horse said, I have an 1860s English 12-gauge cap lock double barrel at the gunsmith being worked on now. Cool. I have one too, and 10-gauge. It needs 2 hammers on it. It was made by Eli Whitney, but it doesn't have any hammers on it. Caleb picked it up at an auction one time. It was a 3-trigger, kind of a cool thing. But it's a 3-trigger that takes the percussion barrels off with the 3rd trigger. It's kind of a neat thing. Louisiana Gray said, yeah, that's what I had to do 3 times a day. I go out there and shake it, work around, break it up. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the powder? Yeah, I do it 2 times, once in the morning, once in the evening, and let it run for 24 hours. But, yeah, I've never found anybody it doesn't clump in the bottom. And I have lifters glued into my jar, but it's just going to happen. It kind of works its way to the bottom and clumps up. Yeah, Louisiana Gray, yeah, for plinking, just good enough to have fun, yeah. iPod Walker said, hey, guys, do you worry if static electric spark might be a problem with the gunpowder? I don't graphite it, but I store it in plastic. I have some old metal jars, mostly stored in plastic. I've never heard of it happening, but that's not saying that it hasn't. But I go ahead and I mill mine in that PVC jar that I have made, and I have a rubber cap on the end of it. It's not screwed on or anything. My rubber cap just sits on there. It's just a PVC pipe cap. And I don't even, some people put a hose clamp on it. I've never found the need to do that. That way, if something happens in that, I only do 200 grains, and it's in this jar that does not have a well-connected lid. So the lid's on there, and it's not just going to fall off. But if it ever blew, it's pointed in a safe direction away from everything else and actually pointed out the door onto a concrete sidewalk. So if whatever was going on in that jar blew, it would be like a 4th of July fountain just shooting out the door. I think there's no way you could build pressure with just that rubber cap and no hose clamp holding the end of it on. Okay. Yeah, Duelist has a good rolling block video. Several guys do. I have a couple of them, but nothing in depth. Whenever I want to talk about something like I know about it, it's going to be after I've read a few books. And the rolling block I don't know that much about, just general history. What would you recommend for... Robert said, what would you recommend for beginners revolver for target shooting? Well, that would depend. If you're talking about black powder cap and ball, I say get you a 51 Navy's good. Some people like the Remington just because it's easier to start with, but it does bind up a little bit more. At least it did for me. I'd start with 36 because it's cheaper to shoot, easier to load. 51 Navy, 36 Remington. If you're talking about a cartridge gun, I would probably go with either the Heritage Rough Rider or the Ruger Wrangler. I personally like the Ruger Wrangler. That's just me. They're both great guns. If you can afford a little bit more, go up and get you a single six, Ruger single six, about $600. So, but that's where I would start. Cartridge guns, pretty much anything. If you're talking about big bore cartridge guns, pretty much anything from Cimarron, Uberti, Pieta. Well, if you get a Uberti, remember it's probably going to be a 3-click hammer unless you get Cimarron's old model. Pietas are great guns, and they, as far as the 45 Colt models or the big bore cartridge revolvers, they still have 4 clicks. Just depends what you want. But for just target shooting for beginners, cap and ball, I'd say start with a 51 Navy. If it was a cartridge gun and you're wanting to do something like a 22, I would start with a Ruger Wrangler or a Heritage Rough Rider. Okay, Gage Sunderland Jewett said, a while back you did a series thing on the different eras of hunting. On the different areas. Okay. A while back you did a series thing on the different areas of hunting. You did the fur trappers, mountain man, and you said you were going to do a video on the grizzly hunter era before you got to the buffalo. Oh, I don't know if you're talking about me. You might be talking about Duke doing some live streams. We do all that over on Duke's channel now on the, it's on this channel too, but on Duke's channel on the Tales of the Trail. Sorry. My mind went blank for a second there. We didn't do the buffalo hunters yet. We did do everything, I think. I don't think we did mostly hunters. We talked about mountain men and whatnot. So, yeah, if you wanted to do grizzly hunting, grizzly hunting mainly happened back in the day when the grizzly hunted the guys, and then they wound up hunting the grizzly. I've read a lot of accounts of mountain men saying they see a grizzly in the glen, just leave it alone and go the other direction. But yeah, grizzly hunting I'm sure did happen, but you'd have to talk to Duke about that. Martin Kavanaugh said, any tips on unscrewing seized, rusted, screw-off breech? Let's see. Any tips on unscrewing seized, rusted, screw-off, breech-loaded pistol barrels? I know heat is necessary. Okay, breech-loaded pistol barrels. So, when you say that, I assume you're talking about like Colt Single Action Army or something like that. It's breech-loaded in a pistol barrel. I'm going to have to refer to Snapper on that, even though he's not here. Save it for when we can talk to him. Maybe he'll jump in here. Heat's usually necessary, a gun vise, if that's what you're talking about, a receiver vise. And I really can't give you many tips on it because I don't do it very often. When I have a gun that needs it, I send it to Snapper and have him do it for me. iPod Walker said, I use brass media and I've never been concerned with it. Yeah, I use lead. I'm actually going to start using brass pretty soon. I have it. I just haven't had a necessary need to yet. For some reason, even though I use lead, my powder's been clean, but I probably will move to brass pretty soon. Kingdom of Vinland says, howdy. Louisiana Gray said, I don't do more than 100 grams at a time, though. Yeah, 200 grams is the most I do, too. It makes about a little, I think it's a little over half a pound. But, yeah, I do it with 200 because that works out easily in the math. Okay, Gotslica said, thank you. It may follow me home tomorrow. Jonathan Picone said, got a Cimarron 1887 lever action shotgun. Not many videos on them. Your thoughts on it? On if it's an improved PW87. I haven't shot the Cimarron. I've shot the PW87. I have a video out on it, and it needs, I mean, it's a good gun, but it's got a lot of sharp edges with a little work. I've heard that they can be really good. I have not shot the Cimarron 1887. If you want to know about those, I would suggest you go over and comment on Jay Wheeler on his channel. He has all of those. It's just Jay Wheeler. He has all of those guns, all those lever actions. I think he has one of basically all of them, including originals. And so he can tell you the differences more than I can. I've only ran the PW 87. Yeah, Robert, 51 Navy it is. Yeah, and I'd just go ahead and spend a little extra money if you're getting that. Get you a good steel frame gun. Pieta will last you a long time. It's got the lettering on the side of the barrel, but it's actually got better steel in it, if you ask me, than the Uberti. Uberti looks better on the outside, but the Pieta will stand up to sustained shooting more, in my opinion. And I've shot a lot of them. I had one with 3,000 rounds through it. But yeah, if you can only afford a brass frame, that's fine. A 36 caliber brass frame will last you a lot longer than most people give it credit for. But a steel frame, that's about the way to go. Steel frame. If you're going to reenact and just carry it a lot, the Uberti is the way to go in my mind. If you're going to actually shoot it a lot, I like Pietas. Louisiana Gray said you can't go wrong with 51 Navy, small amount and less charge and a lot of fun. Yeah, and you'll want to know, you'll want to figure out whether or not you really want to do this before you get too invested. But the 36 is also easier to load, less ring circumference to cut off of that loading lever. And trust me, if you decide you like it, you're going to start investing in all of them. Before long, you'll have one of everyone. Squibload says, good evening. Good evening. Vaquero Joel said, thanks. It was quite disconcerting to have a trapdoor pop open and see that case come flying back at you. That said, the geometry of the action pushes all the gases up into the top of your head. Yeah, I've never had one. I've read a lot about the ones that did pop. And the ones that did pop were the pre-1877s. They had smaller gas ports, thinner, narrower doors. And a couple of them popped due to being extremely overcharged with a heavy bullet when they were first trying out the 500 grain bullets. The funny thing was, when they popped, it was not a case of the case pushing back because of the way the trapdoor sets in there. If the case is slamming back into it, so long as the latch is holding, literally the only thing you're doing is pushing that steel back into the other steel behind it. You're just pushing the door backwards. So what happened that was the absolute worst case scenario for them was a case head separation, gas coming backwards and then up, like you're saying, up toward the top of your head, and it would actually pop the front of the trap before it popped the latch. So it was kind of an interesting thing. So they widened the door in 77. They made the action stronger, and they extended gas ports out the sides so that if you have a case head separation or something happens and you get gas blowback, it'll actually blow sideways both directions and won't pop the door because there's two big gas ports in there. But the H&R guns that were made are copies of the earlier guns, so they have the narrower doors and no big gas ports. So yeah, those H&R guns, I've heard some people have great success with them. The one I have has no problems, but I've also heard people have terrible horror stories with them. You just got to get them checked out. You just got to make sure that thumb latch is doing its job. Louisiana Gray said, I do like the 61 better as it has a better loading lever. That is true, but it will cost you $100 more. So if you want to go for the 61, that's my favorite of all time, probably the 61 in 36. 61 Navy has the better loading lever, but like I said, it's a little more expensive is all. Arizona Ghost Riders is in. Hi, Santee. Said long day, but I wanted to say hi to all you rogues. Well, just one rogue tonight. I can check my back room here and see if nobody's came in yet. And take care and have a good night. Good night to you, Santee. Mood lines with a round barrel. Okay. Diane Houston said, hey, Garrett, when's the next Smoke in the Woods? I really enjoyed that. I really enjoy the channel. Yeah, I'm been working on it behind the scenes a lot. My sister has a loom, and it's an actual full-size loom from the 1800s, and she's got it set up. I need to do a little work on it. I'd like to do a full episode on her, just to kind of explaining how that works. That big dude takes up a whole room, and she got it set up, and she's been making stuff on it. Noah has been, I had to work on some buckskin pants. I finally just broke down and bought some that were the correct ones. They were very expensive, but I bought some instead of making it myself, because even though those were expensive, they were cheaper than making it myself. Been working on some other stuff. I have a plan for my next one. I just haven't had the time to make it. If everything works out right, I'll be doing, because I've kind of decided to move away from just me talking and shooting and go more to that, the aesthetic videos, the ambience videos. I really like doing that. And so I'm probably going to be releasing them once every 2 weeks or so. My next one I have in mind to do is a pork loin on an open fire and with some other things involved. Wood cutting with actually got a 10-foot crosscut saw that's a 2-man. Knowing I'll be running that. Ethan bought an original 1800s hewing axe. Be bringing that out on that channel. So I've got all kinds of ideas. I have to wait for the wind to quit blowing and me to get a little bit of time to do it. But I'm hoping it all works out okay. I might be able to do it this Sunday and hopefully release it sometime next week. Yes, Robert said lead is ridiculous expensive these days. Yeah, go down to your when I did it, I actually had a bunch of lead to start with. So I got lucky. You don't want to use wheel weights if you're loading it in a 51 Navy because that stuff's hard to load because you got to cut a ring. Go down to your local scrap yard and just ask them if they got 4 or 5 pounds of lead. And if you're only shooting one 51 Navy, that'll last you a long time casting if you want to cast. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty expensive to just buy a round ball. Oh, Louisiana Gary said, yes, it is, Robert. That's what makes the 36 such a great choice. I use battery cable lead ends from my brother's shop and make my own. Yeah, that's making your own is the best way to do it. But you may not want to invest in all that when you're starting out until if you find out whether or not you're really going to like it or not. Hiram Hillbilly said, I have a new U-Birdie 1861 Navy black powder revolver, 36 caliber, 7.5. Colt, second gen, 1851 barrel showed up on eBay. What are the chances it would have for the U-Birdie? Actually, pretty good, depending on the era of the second gen you're talking about. Because early second gens, the first handful run of them, if I recall right, I could be wrong here, are made really, really close to spec. They were U-Birdie rough cast parts brought into the Colt factory and then made it Colt. And then as the second gen wears on a few years, I think it's either 2 or 3 years later, they start making them in the Ivor Johnson factory, but to the same spec. Now, from what I understand, do your own research on this. That whole second gen run, I don't know if I want to say that. I understand that there were U-Birdie castings used there, but don't quote me on it because as soon as I do, somebody will say Ivor Johnson made the frames in the Ivor Johnson factory for the black box second gen Navies. So I don't know. I wouldn't be scared to try it. If nothing else, retap it for whatever thread that is. So Franklin Horse said, I just bought an original 1887. Do you get a chance to view it in the link I posted in the comment section of your PW87 video? No, probably not. When I moved on to Smoke in the Woods, I set all my computer stuff up to take the comments from that channel, which there's not a lot of. And Ethan is now taking all the comments on 11 Bang Bang, unless I happen to go clear over there and reset everything to look at that channel. And he's been gone for a few days, so I'll have to go over there and actually physically look now because I'm no longer getting notifications that a comment comes up on 11 Bang Bang. So if you guys are commenting on those videos, first of all, I need to explain to people, if it's a reply, I never got to see those anyway for some reason. The way Google was working when they would email me the comments, they never showed me the replies. They'd just say you have a reply. If I clicked on it, it went away. So if I didn't know what video it was on, I could never find it. But as of right now, I'm not actually answering the comments over there unless you, like you just mentioned. I will go look that up and take a look at it when I get a chance here. Let's see. Turkey Creek 1823 said, Smoke in the Woods is the only channel I have the notification bell turned on. Well, I'm glad you do because hopefully I'm going to get some more turned out over there. I didn't want to go into that channel wanting to build it per se. But I just, to be quite honest, there was a lot of infighting going on in the comment sections on 11 Bang Bang, which is to be expected. We're at 30,000 plus subscribers. And I was getting emails and comments and everybody was going after, and it got to where it wore on me for a while. And after 3 years or so of it, I realized I was spending more time looking through a camera lens than I was actually looking at nature. before going out and shooting. And I was so worried about it. So for the last month, I've been doing everything, and I have used my phone on some things, you know, but I'm not pushing myself. I'm relaxing. I'm enjoying it over there on that channel. I've started watching a channel that I'll plug here, the Woodland Escape. If you guys haven't seen the Woodland Escape, you've got to watch it. The guy's Peter Kelly. He's up in Canada. He's building a fort. He's built cabins. He builds guns. He builds everything. But it's always kind of just a very slow, relaxed ambiance sort of videos. And I was watching that, and I was like, that's what I want to do for a while. And Ethan was coming back, so I just let him have this one. And it turns out once we split the channels, neither of us have time to make videos for either channel. So that's kind of where we're at. And it may grow over there. It may not. It doesn't bother me that much. Noah and I were just having fun. And like I said, we spent the last several weeks making stuff, making shooting bags and buckskins and moccasins. And I actually have a set of moccasins here that we took a Sunday afternoon when I would normally be filming for 11 Bang Bang. And Noah and I sat down, and I know they look a little rough, but these are hard sole plains moccasins. And we did that out of some German tanned buckskin. And we made those. And then the next Sunday, we made some canvas haversacks, not shooting bags, bigger haversacks. And right now, he's over there working on a Beltax sheath. I rehandled a Beltax. All kinds of fun stuff we've been doing. We need to get some more of it on film. But when we come back, we'll be pretty historically accurate to 1810 to 1830. And that's where we want to be. Okay. Franklin Horse said, now I need to find some 12-gauge brass shells to load. Magtech shells by, I think it's called Ballistic Products. They usually have them for a very good price, just empty brass. Hiram Hillbilly would have fit. Oh, would it fit? I don't know. Like I said, you're talking about that 51 Navy barrel. I think it would, but I couldn't guarantee it. Chris Klein said, hello, all. Tim O'Neill said, hi, guy. Missed the last one, but left a bunch of notes for Duke to make it. Okay. Levi Lamb said, Midway has 12-gauge brass. Cool. Vaquero Joel said, mine, the latch gave way. I was shooting 70 grains with 350-grain bullet. Held for about 50 to 60 grains. Okay, gotcha. So that was your H&R, I assume. Thinking about boring up to 50 from a 44 brass frame 51 Navy with thinking about boring it up to 50? Boy, I feel like you'd be getting that cylinder awful thin at 50 for a 51 Navy and 44. Don't let anybody ever tell you, though, either that Colt never made a 44 caliber 51 Navy, because he did. Yes, there was only about 10 of them, 40 and 44 caliber. Yes, they were only prototypes, but like I told Jake the other day, it's categorically incorrect to say that Colt never made a 44 caliber 51 Navy, because he did make a handful of them. Okay, Turkey Creek 1823 says, haha, very funny. The wind quit blowing. Oh, that's like, yeah, Turkey Creek's not too far from my country. Here lately, it's been all day, every day. Hopefully, midsummer, it'll be so hot you can't light a fire, but at least the wind will go away. One time I asked a buddy of mine, when do you think the wind will quit blowing? It was about March. He said, oh, about October. I said, you're probably about right. Keith said, you're not kidding about the wind. It makes offhand a real challenge. Yeah. And I don't like to light a fire in Kansas with any wind. You don't know. And I don't want to be out there fighting it. And since it's smoke in the woods, it almost requires a fire to make a video. Brandon Burke said, little off topic. What is your funniest results from loading your own ammunition? Reload a bunch of 4570 black powder cartridge and had some interesting results. Well, not necessarily funny, but got on video when I reloaded a bunch of that 43 Spanish with modern made 43 Spanish brass, and they sent us some bad brass in there, and I had case head separation on Duke in the middle of the video. He had the blackface all over. He said, hey, guys, something happened. Something went wrong. And I was like, oh, that's not good. He opened it up, and only the case head came out. You got to be careful with modern produced 43 Spanish cases. I don't know what they did wrong, but that batch we had 3 of them that were bad. Other than that, reloading black powder, I've never really had any issues. Black powder is pretty hard to mess up. Franklin Horse said 1887. Yeah. You're talking about your shotgun. Louisiana Gray said, well, I sure enjoy watching you and Noah over there. We'll be doing some more pretty soon. Like I said, we've been spending all the windy Sunday afternoons that, where we can't do anything else, that we actually have an afternoon to do it. We're in there making stuff for the channel. So that's it'll be coming. When the wind quits blowing, it'll get more frequent. Like TC said, that probably never happened. Let's see. Martin Kavanaugh said single shot antique pocket pistols like a Derringer, but screw barrel with powder chamber. You place the ball on top and then rescrew the tube. The old ones arrive seized solid with rust. Oh, okay. The only thing I've ever had like that's that Queen Anne's pistol, and it wasn't seized up. Once again, I'm going to have to refer you to Snapper on that because he does that kind of thing all the time. If it was me doing it, and if it was an antique and I absolutely had to shoot it and I couldn't get it undone, it would require heat. But I would be worried about changing the color of the barrel to the point where I'd have to refinish it. And so, once again, maybe soaking it in diesel for a few days might work. Once again, I got to refer to Snapper on it because, like I said, if I have something that seized up, I send it to him. So, your comment got deleted. Well, I didn't even use a swear. I haven't deleted any comments, Squib. I don't know of anybody else that has. The only other person in here that's got a wrench was AR American. Huh. What comment was it? Comment it again. Maybe I'll see it. Because I sure didn't see your first one. Desert Rat 45. I actually have 3 12-gauge brass shells, Remington UMC. Cool. Off subject, but I'm curious, Kent says, do you think reloading your own ammo is becoming obsolete with this new generation? No. I think it's becoming more prevalent ever since 2020. I know I've been into it a lot more, and just about everybody I know that's shooting, at least in massive quantities, is either shooting muzzle loaders, or if they're shooting cartridges, they're hand loading for them. I'm pretty sure that I have to stop and think of the name now. Oh, Dylan. Dylan Presses has had banner years the last couple of years. So I don't think it's going away. I think it's becoming more and more common, especially the better the presses get and the easier it gets. Okay, Squibload said, I commented that the LeMat was a good starter black powder revolver. Okay. I couldn't comment to that because I never even had the LeMat yet. But yeah, I didn't delete it. I don't know if anybody else did. But yeah, that's, if you think, go over and check out Squibload's video on the LeMat video. Okay. Okay, Tim O'Neill said, Hey!
Hey!
I'm not alone anymore. I've been rescued.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry it took me so long.
That's
You're running a
okay.
little late, but I'm here. I made it.
I was having lots of fun, but there's a couple questions in here that are just for you.
Uh-oh.
Martin Kavanaugh says he.
Hold on 1 second. My mic is not working yet. Give me just a second and I'll fix this problemo. Audio.
Are you there?
Garrett?
Yep. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Un moment.
Okay.
I'm close. I'm so close. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I'm good. We're good.
Okay. Martin Kavanaugh had 2 questions, and we're referring to guns that are like the Queen Anne's pistol, but a Derringer, anything. Screw barrel pistols, right? Single shot screw
Okay.
barrel pistol. He got one in. It's seized with rust. An antique. I think it's an antique. He said, single shot antique pocket pistols like Derringer, but screw barrel with a powder chamber. You place the ball on top and screw the tube. The old ones arrived seized with rust, and he's wanting to know what we would do to unseize that. I think preferably without ruining the finish.
Okay, let's talk about this. There are several steps you're going to have to try to take. One, regular penetrating lube. Lube it up, let it sit for a day or two, then try it again. Put it in a vise with leather on each side, like nice thick, like what's the name of that? Veg tan leather. And so you can squeeze on it pretty good without hurting it or hurting the finish. And then try to walk it back and forth very slowly, back and forth. And if that doesn't work, your other option is throw it in a pot of boiling water, distilled boiling water. Let it sit in there and just boil for a while. That'll eat off that rust as well, and then try it in the vise with the leather. If that doesn't work, the guaranteed way of getting it off is you're gonna have to heat that joint up with a torch and a little bit of you heat it and then quench it. You don't want to get it too hot, because what you don't want to do is, depending on if it's wrought iron, you don't have to worry about it because it's not heat treated anyways. But if it is a steel barrel with any kind of carbon material made out of it, a harder carbon material, you can make the barrel too hard by quenching it. So if you do quench it, if you have to go that route to quenches it, go ahead and heat it back up to a you're probably gonna lose most of your finish, but at least a spot where you can polish it, and then you're gonna want to heat it up to almost a bluish color, and then quench it, and then it'll be back to a spring. So then you can actually use it like a barrel without having to worry about it exploding. The biggest thing with temper is you don't want to. Soft is okay, but hard is bad because that can be a catastrophic failure. You just don't want the metal to get too hard. But if it's wrought iron, you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to get hard, really.
So, but if you get to the extreme of using a torch, I would guess you're probably going to have to refinish your barrel.
Yeah.
But if that's what you got to do, it's what you got to do.
It's what you got to do, yeah. Either way, you get to a point where it's, you have to weigh those options. Do you want a shootable gun and the thing too is if it's rusted solid, screw the finish. Look, I know it sounds horrible, but that means there's rust in those threads eating the gun alive. Mm-hmm. Even though it might fix that issue, because you could always create, like using a rust bluing method and a little bit of polishing here and there and a little bit of roughing up stuff to make it look like an original finish. But the finish is the least important thing when it comes to rust. It's great to try to save that finish, and that's what the best part about boiling it in distilled water is. You're going to retain the finish that's there. But if it gets to the point where you have to heat it, just do it, because you're just letting the gun die if you don't. Because most people are too scared to even do that. And would you rather have a gun that's dying and not going to be around in 50 years, or do you want, with its original finish but gone in 50 years, or without its original finish but it's still around? You got to weigh those options. And sometimes there's no good answers. Usually they suck.
Yep. There was one other question. A guy who had a Uberti frame, the way I understand it, 51 Navy, and he was looking at a second gen 51 Navy barrel. Do you know if that thread would match?
We're talking about a 51 Navy.
Yeah, a second gen with a Uberti frame.
I don't know. It might.
I've heard, that's what I said. I think it would, because I've heard those are made out of Uberti castings, but
I think the second gens, though, they're also they're closer to like the diameter pin and whatnot is closer to the original Colt.
Yeah. I
think what you're going to run into is either the arbor is going to be too long, the arbor is going to be too short, or the arbor pin is either going to be too small, or the arbor pin is going to be a little bit too big. If it's too big, no big deal, because that's the arbor pin for Uberti. So, polish a little bit off so you can get that barrel to fit.
He did say 51 Navy. Somehow in my head, I was picturing second gen 73, and I just said 51, so I remembered it. So I was saying threads, right? And
I was like, threads?
Oh, wait, there is no threads on the 51 Navy. For some reason in my head, I was thinking 73. Let's see. There was a few.
You could make it fit. You could make anything fit. Just.
Well, don't you have an original with a Uberti barrel?
I do, but it's kind of. Oh yeah, you didn't see nothing. Oh, excuse me, I'm stretching my arm.
Please don't do that to us.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm glad you caught me. Let's see. I have, yes. I'm trying to remember what I had to do to fit it though. The one that had that Dan tap at the back, that's what I put a Uberti barrel on that for a while. I remember it pretty much going in. I think the little pins at the bottom of the frame, I had to shape in those a little bit. I think they were a tiny bit too big, if I remember. But try it. Just give it a shot. Stick it on there and see what it needs. You can fix it. If the arbor pin's too big, it's not a big deal. You can always unscrew that arbor. That arbor unscrews. There's a pin in the back, on the back of the frame. You got to drill out the little retaining pin, and then that arbor can unscrew. You can remake an arbor, make an arbor bigger. You can add to that arbor. You can shorten that arbor. You can lengthen that arbor. Whatever you got to do to make it work. And being it's a Uberti part, who cares? You know, it's not like you're modifying a real Colt.
Tim O'Neill, I think he's talking about when I was talking about the 44 caliber 51 Navy, said, did they make it? Can buy proper cast bullets from Hornady? Yeah, they made it. They made a 44 caliber 51 Navy.
Yep.
Does it look exactly? It has a fluted cylinder.
It's a fluted cylinder with more of a Griswold and Gunnison style barrel.
It's a 51 Navy barrel. They just, after the
Rounded it.
rounded it.
Yeah.
But the 40 caliber one looks just like a 51 Navy.
It does, yes.
So, yeah, they do exist.
I'm telling you, I kind of want to get myself a like a Uberti 51 Navy and turn it into one of those 44. Make it look just like the real one. That'd be kind of fun just to trip people up.
Navy 1860.
I know. That would have been perfect. So all I need to do is get a 44 caliber 51 Navy barrel and round it.
Exactly. That's all you really have to do. And put the Navy grips on it.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm thinking a wider carbine with a 12-inch barrel. I think they made a smooth bore on a 51 Navy with a 12-inch barrel. I don't know if they made a smooth. They might have. They made what they called a
They did crazy
cartridge gun, but it wasn't actually a 51 cartridge. They made what they called a carriage gun, but that was a 73.
Yeah, the stock.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody made a 51 Navy 12-inch back then, because in the words of Duelist, if you had the money, they'd make you one with an 18-foot long barrel if you wanted it to.
They sure would. It wouldn't shock me. Like that. Those kind of things don't shock me. I'm sure you might be able to find one or two with like just outrageously long barrels, or even outrageously short barrels. The Colt did it.
There is a 51 Navy car. Is it Manhattan Arms that made the 51 Navy carbine?
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure.
And there's also a Belgian company that did it too. Like most of the ones that I've seen are Belgian. The ones I've seen in person, but I think is it either Manhattan Arms or what's the name of the other one?
Metropolitan.
Yes, might be the Metropolitan. I'm not. I got to look at that. But it looks like a 51 Navy that was turned into a carbine, a longer barrel, and it actually has a stock on it where they just remade it so it actually has a stock. It actually looks really cool. The barrel on that was, I would say, at least 18 inches, if not closer to 24 inches.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, we're talking about copies of 51 Navies that were made side by side, contemporary with original 51 Navies.
Yes. Yeah, you could have had this in the late 1850s, early 1860s all day long.
So if you've got a 60 Army or 51 Navy carbine walking around in 1865, people aren't going to look at you sideways because they did exist.
They did exist.
They weren't necessarily the Colt variety, but they look just like the Colt variety. You'd have to look.
Oh yeah,
the difference.
If I didn't show you where they stamped the brevet on it, I mean, it even says Colt. Believe it or not, it just says Colt brevet, meaning that it's Colt licensed it to be made in another place, or allowed the people to, hey, pay me a little royalty and I'll let you sell it, kind of thing. And yep. Just the whole world of brevets are interesting. It's actually kind of a fun topic as well because there's so many different neat changes that were made by different companies that fell under the Colt brevet. And those carbines are one of them. I have I think it's my video on the first year of me going to the Las Vegas Antique Arms Show. The 2022, I believe. It has one of those in there. I saw it. I really wanted it too.
Well,
I think it'd be pretty neat.
Forever we talked about making one, and then I moved on to flintlocks, and I haven't looked back because I can't afford the caps. Man, I'm telling you, the cap shortage really killed my interest in cap and ball revolvers.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping it'll go away soon. I've been wanting to. I've really been dying to get back with doing some gun stuff myself.
Yeah. And we did have a question earlier that was one we get quite often, but you can go ahead and answer your version of it. What's a good starter cap and ball revolver?
Good starter cap and ball revolver. I'm gonna have to say it like every single time. An original, first model Dragoon.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Honestly, a 51 Navy or a 49 pocket. They're great. The 49 pocket you can shoot forever cheaply because you can even use the little it's like double aught buck. It's the same size.
But bear in mind that the reproductions of the 49 pocket model are terrible usually.
That is true. You're going to need to add a couple extra springs to that hammer spring and do some work to that gun because you're going to want to put better nipples on it and then better springs, and it's a decent gun. But out of the box, if you don't want to work on it, you don't want to touch it, the best I could say would be a 51 Navy. It'd probably be the easiest. Or an 1860 Army, just a little bit more oomph to it. It's a little bit more pricier in powder and ball.
Yeah, that was kind of the conclusion we came to. Everybody's saying hi, Snapper. Squibblood commented that the LeMat is a good starter black powder revolver.
Speaking of LeMat, I got to get that back to him.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Carrie Stottlemyre said, we can hear you, Snapper. Angelica Witt says hi.
Hi.
Oh, wait. Let's see. I think Tim O'Neill said, I think the savings on 300 blackout, I hold groups at less than 20.25 around some 4-minute ammo cost $54 for 20. Woo. That's why I don't shoot modern rifles very much anymore.
Me
Timber Drifter said that was a close one. I don't remember what he's referring to.
Plus, we're using that really weird, strange smokeless powder thing that it's a fad. It'll go away. You know, kids these days with their weird smokeless powder.
Let's see. Did they make a 51 Navy smoothbore? Not to my knowledge of production-wise, but there's a lot of them that are smooth now.
That's a perfect answer. Matter of fact, that's like the perfect answer. I was going to say the same thing. I don't think they did, but it would. You know what? I'm thinking of it. I think they did. And it was like a snake pistol. It was meant for loading it almost like a shotgun for snakes. I remember reading that somewhere.
Probably a prototype or something.
It might have been a prototype,
never went into production. I've never seen an advertisement for it. Let's see. Howdy, everyone. Oh, that must be Ethan on 11 Bang Bang said howdy, everyone.
Hi, Ethan.
Louisiana Gray said, give me a good evening to you, Ethan. Let's see. Warning. Let's see. What would be the load for my Uberti Walker?
60 grains all day, son.
50
90 grains and a 300 grain conical.
If you want to be, if you
Loaded
want to
backwards.
be actually historical about it, 30 to 40 grains in a good heavy 200 to 260 grain conical, or 50 grains in a round ball. If you want to load 60, you can, but that's not the way it was ever suggested to do it.
I still think the NRA curator has it right. 90 and a 300 grain conical.
Turkey Creek 1823 said, so who made my black box 1860 Army? I think the first runs weren't considered the black box. The black box that I know of is also called the F series. Anything made from second gen, made from 68 to 77. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that.
Duelist has a great video on this topic, actually.
I think if it's a black box like my Walker, it's for sure probably made in the Ivor Johnson factory, but made exactly to spec of the original Colt gun.
except for one thing. One god awful thing is I've never seen a black box that actually had progressive rifling.
Pretty sure mine does.
Does it? Now don't go touch it now,
Just a second, and I'll let you know.
because I had this conversation with a couple people, and every time I'd pick up a gun to look at it, like a 49 pocket or 51 Navy black boxes I've looked at, they had regular style rifling. They didn't have the progressive or game twist rifling. Because that actually shocked me. I was actually upset to learn that.
Are you still there? I didn't hear what you said before.
Oh yeah, the ones that I've looked at, the 51 Navies. I've looked at a 51 Navy, a 49 pocket, and a pocket Navy, second gens, and none of them had gain rifling in them.
Were they all the short barreled variety? Or you
No.
said 51 maybe.
Yeah, 51 Navy, regular standard 7.5 inch barrel.
Let me check. Because I thought it did, but this might be important to see.
This is interesting. I would like to know because the ones I've seen didn't, but I've only seen a couple. I mean, I don't know if there's.
Oh, that-
you know.
That dude is progressive as the day is long, I think. Let me send you a picture, Snapper, and then you can
Yes.
look at it.
Oh well, if you take a picture and let the gun down, we should be able to look at. Well, I'll look at it together, right? As long as nobody's holding it.
I don't know. I got in trouble for a video of holding a gun once. You tell me.
Those silly boomsticks.
Let's see. All right.
That's interesting.
Should be coming your direction. Let me turn my camera back on.
Now,
All right,
one
turn it off,
moment.
Put this together. Pardon me while I build a firearm behind the scenes here.
I always notice the best way to see it is if you're looking at the breech, going to the
Yeah, that's what I
tip
said.
of the barrel. Usually, if you go from the tip of the barrel towards the breech, it's hard to tell. It's just kind of messes with your eyes. I'll let you know when it gets here.
I haven't looked at the original rifling on any of our originals for a little bit, but that's not saying anything.
I know that the 51 Navy, the 1860 Army, they start off straight. I'm talking like straight for like a good inch and a half.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. I got it here. Oh, I can't tell, Garrett. I don't know. It kind of does.
I mean, it's straight almost to the last half inch of barrel.
That's interesting, bro.
So maybe I'm
We
right.
need to do some research on that.
I'm pretty sure, though, back to the original thing, if it's a black box, it's probably made out of a 300-page manual 2-spec in the Ivor Johnson factory.
Yeah, I heard they're really like they did a great job on those second gens.
Yeah, they do.
They're
They're kind of like the second-gen single-action armies. They shoot better than the first gens because they're not wore out, and they shoot better than the modern ones because they're made like the first ones.
and they actually have real color case hardening instead of the stuff that you see. It's one of those things that you don't notice that until you actually start dealing with real color case hardening. And then every time you look at a replica, you can spot it from a mile away.
And American walnut grips.
Yep.
Let's see. The best badness said, have some number 10s, referring to caps, but I don't even want to touch them. Yep, me neither.
I think we're all there.
And you can make them yourself, but I never have.
They're very fiddly, and it takes a long time, and they're very fiddly.
To make, like, for me to enjoy it back in the day, I would have gone out and shot 200 rounds in a Sunday, or 30 rounds in a day. Got something from Turkey Creek here. Yeah, Turkey Creek, you got the same black box as I do, and those are F-Series guns, and I'm pretty sure I did the research once. Those are made in the Ivor Johnson factory, but finished in the Colt factory and made 2 Colt specs.
Yep. That's how I remember it as well from the little research I've done. I know Duelist 1954. Is that his?
Yeah,
Duelist.
Before.
Yeah, he has a really good video series on talking about the second gens. Matter of fact, if you have the black box, or anybody else in this that can hear this has a black box second gen, look down the barrel and see if it's got progressive rifling as well. I'm
That's
really
not near
curious.
as fast as twist as my Birdies and Pietas.
Yeah. Normally you can see the twist. Now, like I said, though, if you're looking towards the tip of the barrel towards the breech, it's really hard to tell. It kind of messes with your sight. But if you look from the breech towards the tip of the barrel, you can see it. It starts off nice and straight, and then it gets really tight.
Yeah, that picture
At
I
the
sent
end.
you was from the breech to the end.
Right.
Okay.
It kind of looks like it, but I can't tell. I can't tell. But you're seeing it with your eyes, so you probably can.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it is, but I've been known to be wrong. Yeah, Louisiana Gray said, yeah, good luck getting at reproduction pockets to shoot right. I found out that the 62 pocket Navy? No, which one do you have?
The Navy.
Okay, so the 62 pocket Police from you, Birdie, was probably the most junk cap and ball revolver. The arbor was too short. The hammer was too light. The action felt like you were dragging it over boulders. That was bad, and I've never even taken the time to fix it. I just cleaned it and put it back on the shelf. I mean, it was
a gun I need to get
done every time.
Yeah, that's a shame too. I really think they put the nipples are too big on those guns. I think the firing cone in the center of those nipples are too big. Plus the hammer spring is far too light. Far too light.
Tim O'Neill said dual purpose 51 Navy was shot or ball barrel loaded, either shot or skin cartridges with ball cartridges. Cool. Ethan said easy to fix the cap shortage, get a Collier revolver. Louisiana Gray said, so Garrett, you don't make your own caps? I started to. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it just wasn't going to be feasible for me. So I literally just started shooting flintlocks. And after I got a really good Kibler flintlock, I never looked back because I had just as much fun shooting the Kibler for a whole lot less money than I was shooting that cap and ball revolver. And it was even easier to clean. I have to pull all the nipples on it.
Well, the way I say it, if you've never made your caps before, it's one of those things that you think wouldn't take that long, but you start making them and an hour's passed and you barely have 60 made.
Yep.
It's one of those situations. It's low. It's tedious because it's really small parts. Getting it all lined up, it takes you a good 2-3 minutes per, and before you know it, you spend hours and you don't have that much to show for it.
I tell you,
and they're not even that they're not that great. They work. Don't get me wrong, but they're not great.
You know, everybody says load 5 in your cap and ball to be safe. I was really safe. By the time I was done shooting it, I was loading 1. Then I'd reload just to slow the cap consumption down. Because I can make caps last all day long on a single shot rifle, but a 6-shooter revolver, I missed. Or I hit, I can do that again. You blow through 6 caps, and you're like, well, let's do that again. Then you blow through 12 in the time it would take you to blow through 2 on a rifle. Okay, Josh Harris said, is there a good resource to learn how to make caps out there? Yes, there is. It's called Snappers Antique Firearms Unlimited. He has a video on how to do it. Pretty good.
It's an old video. Don't judge me. It's old. I need to make a new one. There's a tool you buy, and it's you basically use cans, like a beer can or soda can. Cut it out, and you kind of put it in this tool, and you hit it from the top, and these little, they look like the caps come out the bottom. And the little cap guns you buy at Walmart, like little kid cap guns, buy them in the strips and then use a hole puncher to punch out the little circles. And you just drop them in there with a little bit of, what's the name of that glue I was using? People use it for shotgun too. It's like water something. A really thin, light glue on top. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And then you can start putting, you usually have to put 2, maybe 3 of those little round dots from a cap ball or a little cap gun in those, and that's it. Or the better route is to buy matches and break the heads of the matches off and then scrape the stuff on the side of the box into that, lightly fold it around, and now you have an very impact sensitive, powerful powder. and you put that in there instead of using the little cappers things.
Martin Kavanaugh talking about getting that barrel loose. Said, sounds good, Snapper. Barrels are pitted rusty anyways. Been boiling, but I see the gas torch coming out. Do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do, brother.
I'll close my eye. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
Josh,
You'll be amazed what kind of finish you can still retain, even if you have to go to the heat and beat method.
Yep.
Just take your time and don't, try to protect it as best you can. But it's much better to have a gun that isn't dying than a gun that is dying. That's pretty.
Yep. Joshua Harris said, okay, thanks. I'll check it out. I'm learning powder production. If I can get caps sorted, I'd be set. I think we all would be. It just depends on the amount of time and patience you have.
That's the big thing, just time and patience.
About how many would you say you could make an hour?
About 60, maybe 70.
Ooh.
It's slow.
You could shoot them faster than you could make them.
Oh, way faster.
Yeah. iPod Walker said, did anyone ever figure out conical shaped bullets for the Revolutionary period rifles? Not necessarily mini ball type ammo. That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know of it personally, but if I were to say, no, they never did, somebody would be able to jump on here. Well, this German gun from 1610 was loaded with a hammer, a no patch, and a conical in a Whitmer style twist. It would be something like that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
If they did, they definitely weren't common. Let's put it that way. I don't think so, but I could not say for sure that it did not happen.
Man, it's nice being back on this. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I
Ethan
forget.
said, if you see this, I have the Pattern 1776 rifle kit in my possession. Okay, he's talking to somebody else. Badness said, I thought Duelis said his signature series Navy had progressive rifling. He may have.
He may have. I personally haven't seen that, though. I could be wrong.
It's been like 4 years since I've studied that section of Colt. That was back because he started the progressive rifling clear back in the Dragoons. So yeah, it's been almost 4 years since I made that video. Joshua Harris said, I've made 1 pound of powder so far. It's in puck form at the moment. Good luck. And just remember, if you don't get it right the first time, don't get discouraged. Keep trying. Most of us, our first pound of powder is not something we look back on fondly.
Nope. It went kaboom, but it wasn't very good kaboom.
Yep. Let's see. Good luck. Okay, yeah, iPod Walker and him are still talking. Let's see. Tim O'Neill said that is the worst advice for a new shooter. Cheapest brass frame you like, Graf & Sons for 1,000 caps for $125. 3 cans of pellet proper. I've also trusted CVA my brass frame 44. He didn't finish.
Oh, he's probably saying about the Dragoon.
Oh,
well,
yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke.
That's a joke.
If that's what you're talking about. Brandon Birch said, had the Arbor fell on Army Sam Walker my first time shooting it. It was loaded with 50 grains in a round ball, and she let loose on the 3rd shot. And first, when I saw the barrel flying down range. Now, Snapper has an Army San Marco Walker.
Yeah, it's actually behind me, right behind my hat. And it's got a beautifully long stock on it. Skeleton stock. There is nothing cooler than a Walker with a stock. I'm telling you, you got to have one. You're not part of the Croquet Club without one. I'm telling you, you're going to think.
When I was looking for them, they were nowhere to be found.
And these are the cheap ones, right? This is the skeleton stock. They're actually made for the single action army. Matter of fact, that's why I got that one, because I have a longer barreled single action army. I wanted to put it on, but ATF rules. So I was like, hey, I'll just throw it on the Walker. That sounds like fun. And I love it. I think that stock was 120 something bucks, if I remember right. They're fairly cheap. You can find them on Gunbroker quite often.
Yeah, Brandon Burke said, I thought I had a chain fire, but the last 3 were still loaded. And, of course, I didn't have any tools to properly unload. So I switched hands and had a pepper box Walker. That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Pretty good. Oh, yeah. Okay, my 62 Police was loose when I got it, and it was a new Cimarron, but I repaired it myself before I even shot it. Yeah, they're pretty terrible. Like I said, I could have got the one I had going better, but I'd already made the video. I was kind of disgusted with it, and I was in one hand I had that one, in the other hand I had Snapper's original, which I had gone through 70 plus shots without even a cap jam, and they were all hitting really good, and I was like, "That." Tossed the other one away. Cleaned it and put it away. It's there just to complete the collection for the most part. You will be into that for half the cost of a cheap phone. At least you can shoot as much as you want. Cast proper size bullets. These guys are right most of the time when they talk about, and he's still talking about the Dragoon. He must not have got your sarcasm.
It was a joke. And the reason I say that is because, believe it or not, one of the very first, the first real original cap and ball I ever bought, and I only had a 1860 Army Pieta before it, and I only had it for like a week, is when I bought that stupid first model. Well, it's not, but my original first model Dragoon. So technically, it kind of up there with, I can kind of say, because I only shot that 1860 Army once. And then my very next gun I was shooting that was cap and ball was original first model Dragoon. Like you do.
Yeah. Let's see. Louisiana Gray said, yes, indeed. I think they use the factory nipples for the regular size guns. Had to replace mine with Tresco nipples. They work much better. Guns and Water said, hi, guys. Snapper, do you own any flintlock or percussion power testers? I think I sent you a picture of one of those not very long ago. The little Derringer-looking things. It's got the little deal on it, and you pop the powder, and it tells you how powerful it was. It's a historic thing.
No, but I want one now.
There was one on Gunbroker for $100 a month ago. I think I might have sent it to Jake and not you.
I want that. I want that bad.
It actually will tell you what to get it to, and that was a 19th century powder tester.
Dude, I got to get one of those now. That sounds like, a matter of fact, Jake needs one of those horribly. That's the best thing that Jake could ever get for his channel altogether. Yep. He needs that. But I want one now too, almost as much as I want one of those rat guns you have.
Oh, the mouse killer?
Yeah.
I could probably handle that on live stream and not get in trouble because they wouldn't know what it was.
It is technically a gun you set up in your house.
Mousetrap.
It's a mousetrap, but it's basically a gun. What size was it?
It's a
36 caliber? 32.
It's originally, they made them in 1862. They were called the Mouse Killer, and it is just a gun with a mousetrap cheese set up on it and a little cannon barrel. And it looked like.
Can you imagine waking up in the middle of the night with that?
Oh, I could imagine forgetting I said it and then stepping on it.
Oh man, me too.
Amputation Royal.
I bet you PTSD was crazy back then when you had rats.
Yeah, pow.
Oh, what the heck was that? Every 5 seconds. Oh, man, that thing is so cool. I want one so bad.
That's funny. Yeah, Louisiana Gray said, I don't find my homemade caps to work good on 6 guns, but on rifles, they're great. Yeah, I would make them for rifles if I had to, yeah.
I think that rifles would be the best way to use it, yeah.
Because if I could make 60 in an hour, 1 hour would make me 3 weeks worth of shooting plus,
Exactly. I could see that as being 100% or single shot, pistols, what little there are.
Okay. Timber Drifter said, how do you stop rust in a 40-inch barrel long rifle? How would you boil that barrel?
Okay, let's get down to this one. One, there's a couple ways of doing this. Easiest way of doing it is, actually, I'll go on the harder kind of way of doing this, is to go down to like Home Depot and buy, the metal grate they use for your gutters in your house. Get the ends together as well on whatever length you need to make it. Buy the sealant, the little silicone sealant to seal it so it holds water. Take it outside on the turkey baster. What the heck are those things called? Yeah. And put that over it, and then once the water's boiling, you can stick the barrel in that. Another one that I've actually used, I love the way it works, is just using the way they would do for rust blowing when they would boil the rust off. That is just buy a PVC pipe. At the very top of it, put the plug with a little area for you to put the wires so you could hang the barrel, so the barrel's hanging down the pipe. And then at the bottom of that barrel, you buy a pot, regular big stainless steel pot. Drill a hole on the top of that pot so the steam rises through that PVC pipe once you put the lid on it. And then once you turn that on and the water's boiling in that pot, the steam comes up through that PVC pipe where the barrel's, hanging into, and the steam will do it. The steam has got plenty of heat to still do the exact same process instead of blowing it underwater itself.
Now,
actually, steam will do it.
I'm very familiar with the guttering, but I had not ever heard that style. I'm sure you probably told me. And
it takes a little bit longer, but it works fine.
Okay. Let's see. I use a 22 primer reloading. Louisiana Gray said, okay. 22 primer reloading compound. Oh, cool. So you're not using the actual paper caps. Rock McLaughlin said, I started seeing a good supply of the RWS 1075 caps. If Remington 10s are 100%, 1075s are 98% for me on the same nipples, multiple cap and balls. Yeah, I found the 1075s to be better than the CCIs and just as good as the Remingtons, I thought. Matter of fact, they seemed hotter. It just depends.
I don't have too much experience with them.
If you're shooting on originals or replicas, because they fit replicas better than originals, which is the case with most caps.
Most modern caps don't fit originals very well.
Gray Pilgrim's in. He said, hi, guys.
Hey, Gray.
Great. Oops, hang on. Gray said, I use Strike Anywhere match heads and a pinch of 4F.
Cool. That'll do it.
Ethan said, no conicals in the Revolution. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Cone heads are from France. Arizona Frontiersman said, with the shortage of percussion caps, 10 and 11, would you think that some entrepreneur would jump on the opportunity to upstart the business devoted to caps and primers? Is it red tape? Yeah, somebody just
I actually asked that question a while ago.
Somebody just did. Some company. I don't think it was GoX. I think if you go back and watch the I Love Muzzleloading channel, the last few weeks' videos, he made a video where there is a company, one of the bigger companies, that put out an announcement they're going to give CCI a run for their money because Remington 10s are so far gone. Somebody's going to make a new cap, and it's going to be supposedly the perfect cap.
Hope so.
So I don't know who.
I forgot when I brought that. I brought that up in a live chat a long time ago, somewhere. I was complaining about it too.
I want to say GoX might be doing it, but I don't remember if that, or Estes Energies, but I don't remember for sure if that's what he said.
It's like, how hard could it be to start a company up making these? But then I realized you're going to need an explosive license with all the other crazy red tape.
Well, that's the thing. Estes Energies and GoX already has that.
Exactly. They already have that stuff. So they're the perfect people to start. If you don't have it, it would probably take you 5 to 10 years to get the facilities and all the red tape started just to start production.
Yeah. Let's see. Louisiana Gray said, I'm pretty sure Mike Bellevue said all signature series were nothing but you birdies. Yeah. That's the third gens. Yeah. Let's see. Anyone heard from Mike lately? Gray Program said, yeah, he had a bad fall. I can't remember where he was, but he broke a bunch of ribs and had maybe his hip.
Who?
Like massive amount of Mike Bellevue.
Oh, did he?
Massive amounts of broken bones, and he has not been online for a while. Like, he was in the hospital for the last month plus.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember exactly what it was. If you go read his community posts, he's posted about it. I think Duke was the one who told me about it. But, yeah, he had a bad fall back in the winter on an icy day. Louisiana Gray said, seriously doubt they would have progressive rifling. Yeah, the Signature Series, a.k.a. the third gens, no.
They definitely won't have it now.
Everything I've seen about the third gens is bad. They're the Signature Series.
But I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on the second, because I will be really happy to hear if they do. My little bit of research in the ones I played with, they didn't, but I just might have seen special ones. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. That'd be cool. I would really love to know that the second one's had the progressive rifling, because that's really part of the whole, thing.
Tim O'Neill said, I'm still building black powder pistols and I live in an apartment. Landlords take a dim view on casting, making your own powder and cap. So does you require insurance for your contents. Now, I don't, but I own my own property, my own house and everything. And I don't
It's
make
very
it in
easy.
the house.
You just don't let them see you do it.
I don't do it in the house. I do it out back. I have a specific shed just for nothing but making powder. And if that little shed ever blows up, first of all, I'm on the fire department and the fire truck's right down there. I go get it, I'll put it out. And if it ever blows up, it's a little 15 by 10 foot shed. It's not the end of the world. And like I said, the way I do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you hose clamp the rubber cap on the end of your? You use a glass jar.
Yeah, I do. Mine would be a little bit more dangerous than yours because it would build up some pressure and probably throw some shrapnel, but not much.
Not that much pressure.
Yeah, I use a really. Yeah. That how you make it is important because if you use it like, especially with like a rubber ends that are like clamped on with hose clamps, it's not going to build enough pressure to become explosive.
Yeah,
it would burn, like you know, it might make a little pop, but nothing crazy. You're not going to make it's not going to be an explosion. You have to have pressure to have that. That's kind of why when you make it, you don't want to use large quantities or you want to use soft materials like rubber or something like that.
Let's see. Gray Pilgrim said, I have 2 walkers, one Army San Marco and one I have no idea. Guns and Water, 3 weeks or so. Best Badness said, do you need to cut the walker to put the stock on it?
No, not at all. A matter of fact, if you use this style of shoulder, so this is it's called the skeleton version, and it's for the single action armies, the 1873 single action armies. How you mount these to the gun, I wish I could show you guys, but the hammer screw that holds your hammer in, it comes with longer ones. And you have to make sure that it fits whatever it is. Like if you have a replica or original, whatever. And I have a lathe, so I made a couple for my Dragoon because I've shot my Dragoon with that thing as well. You just change that out so now it's longer on each side, and it has the little hook that hooks into the top up here. At the top it has 2 little holes where it would slide into where that hammer screw would be, because now it's longer than the normal, so the head's sticking out plus the other side sticking out. You click it in there and you clip it around the bottom, and once you put it around the bottom of the buttstock there's a nut, and you just tighten that nut down and it holds perfectly. And you don't have to modify any gun to make it fit. Now I did have to modify that one a little bit to make it fit the walker because the walker's wider than the single action army. The single action army frame is like the size of a 51 Navy, and the walker's wider. So I had to file out a lot of the inside of that to make it wider. But other than that, now it fits great. And then once even I made it wider, it still fits on the other guns just fine. There's no slop or anything.
Yeah. You might have to just make a video about that.
I think I should.
Yeah. Be checking out the Snapper's channel. He might make one.
I might make a video one of these days. It's been a while.
Let's see. Gots Loco said, on early conical projectiles, I suggest the English cartridge by Brett Gibbons paper cartridge YouTube channel. Yes. Doug Duke said Mike posted just a day or so back, posted x-rays of pins in his arm, said his back was better, still has a lot of troubles with stairs.
At least he's getting better.
Guns and Water said they did a short run with progressive rifling. Well, that must be what I have, because I'm pretty sure that Walker's got progressive rifling.
So they did a short run with the second gens.
Yeah.
Interesting. I got to find that. I actually need to know this now, because that would be neat.
Yep. Gray Pilgrim said, my latest is an 1863 Remington 31 pocket. Shoots well. I saw your video you did on that the other day, I think. Let's see. Situation. Well, some of these guys, I'm not sure what they were talking about because I've scrolled past the original conversation. Ethan said conical bullets were first designed by Captain John Norton of the British Army in 1832. Cool. iPod said among the first pointed conical bullets designed by Captain John Norton, British Army, 1832. Norton's bullet had a hollow base made of a lotus pith on a firing expanded engaged rifling. And Ethan said, Jinx, you owe me a soda. They both hit it at the same time. Yeah, you missed that one. It's been maybe 2 months ago, Guns and Water. iPod Walker said, thanks, Googled it. Rather owe it to you than to pay it. Okay. I'm not sure what that was about. Kent said, night, y'all. Have to work to do. Go good night to you. Oh, yeah. Both iPod and Ethan both said they Googled it. Gotcha. Tim O'Neill said, never bought a Dragoon. My first carbine was an 1855 58 caliber round ball shooter with a stock and a 12-inch barrel. Never seen YouTube 12-inch barrel Dragoon pistol. I live in Florida and have blued guns use Ballistol. There's an 18-inch Walker on the Black Powder Shooter 44's channel.
Mhm.
Not a 12-inch that I'm aware of. Gray Pilgrim said, I use PVC pipe loaded with evaporust. It turns it black.
That will do it too. Vaporous is pretty good stuff.
Yep. Timber Drifter said, thanks for the answer on stopping rust on the 40-inch barrel. Very helpful. Guns of the West is in. Says, hello, Relay Show. Hi, Dustin. iPod Walker, anyone see the trailer for Civil War? Nah, it's modern stuff. I'm not too interested in it, but I might be. I don't know. Depends on Ethan tells me I should be. By Land and Sea says, howdy, everyone. Yeah, whoever it was that asked about the rolling block history earlier, go check out By Land and Sea. He's got a video on it that I'm aware of, if it's still there. Kodak Tackman said, what do y'all recommend on Pieta cap jamming? Have the right size nipples for caps? Should I get extra mainsprings?
First, I would say that if they are the right size caps, you're putting on the nipples, then I would go with the mainstream. But it also could be that the nipples, the hole in the middle of it is too big. They make them too big.
Yeah.
So all that pressure is, when they're smaller, there's less pressure going backwards, so you don't need as heavy of a hammer spring. But a good heavy hammer spring on top of the right size hole in the middle of that nipple is winner every time. It makes the biggest difference. You can turn any gun into a sweet shooting gun that doesn't cap jam hardly ever, unless you let Dustin use
it. And if all else fails, polish the hammer face. Arizona Frontiersman said, thanks a lot, guys. By Land and Sea said, howdy, everyone. James Cox said, how about the guy from Black Powder TV? Yeah, Bob McBride, he had cancer. He made a video about it. He's still with us as far as I know. I haven't heard any updates, but I think he got to where I was. After a while, he was just tired of looking at guns through cameras and wanted to look at them with his eyeballs. I'm pretty sure he's living the life. I still see him, as of not too long ago, pop up in comment sections and over in the American Long Rifle Forum. So he's still around, I think, but he's just out of the game for a while. I'm sure he'll come back someday. He had the fastest growing Black Powder channel ever, I think. At 14,000 in just a year.
That's pretty crazy.
He had good content, though.
You know, it is kind of sad that the YouTube kind of does that to everybody. So many times I just want to shoot my gun, just enjoy shooting it and not turn the camera on and not,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the trouble is, once you hit that place, unless you're like me and have an Ethan backup, or Ethan has me for backup, your channel dies. It takes a long time.
You start riding motorcycles too much.
Yeah. Brandon Birch said, my second gen 51 unfortunately does not have progressive rifling. Tim O'Neill said, I can see me in my apartment with that. I have a living room just soaking a Civil War holster in Ballistol spray. I miss Mike. He showed me everything about Colts. My landlord requires $50,000 fire insurance. Okay.
Maybe, just maybe, don't let them know that kind of stuff. Just saying.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I mean.
See you later, Turkey Creek. We got to get down there sometime soon and do a collaboration with Turkey Creek. I think I got it in my mind to do it this spring if you'll have me again. Ethan needs to finish that sight-in test on the 1803 Harper's Ferry. We got part of it filmed, but we don't have all of it yet. Because Turkey Creek custom built that gun for us. We need to really got to get out there when the wind ever quits blowing. But like Turkey Creek said, when does that ever happen? Okay. James Singer asks, Slicks or Trescos? Nipples. I've only used the originals, so I must have had good run with Pietas the first few years I was running them because I didn't have cap jams in my Pietas.
I think the most experience. I've tried both. I think the Trescos are the ones that.
Slick Shot's got the hole in the side.
Right. Matter of fact, I was about to say his name's Squibload. When I was working on some of his guns, which I still haven't finished, which I need to get done, Griswold and Gunnison, he had picked up some aftermarket nipples, and there was some Slick Shots and some. I think the other ones were Tresco. They might be, but they look like regular nipples. They just have a smaller fire hole in the middle of them, and I really liked those, just because they look stock. You know, having the hole in the side kind of, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Tim O'Neill said, don't do that to your guns. You don't need to. Guns have a soul. Not sure.
That is true. They do, I think. Maybe. Hopefully.
Some of them do.
Some of them do. Not all, though.
And some of them have a black soul.
Yes.
Remington.
Haunted. Freaking Colt of mine.
Kodak Tackman said, Slick Spring nipples on both revolvers for number 11 caps. Gray Pilgrim said, I found I can shoot or I can film, but I can't do both. Exactly. Let's see. Squibload said, Snapper, hey, jump back in, heading to bed. I'll listen this weekend on replay.
Matter of fact, I need to get a hold of him. I haven't talked to him in a while. Let him know the stuff I've gotten finished for him.
Doug Duke says, does Sure Shot still make nipples? They have holes in the sides to relieve the excess pressure. I don't know. I know Slick Shots have holes in the side. I don't know. Have you heard of Sure Shot?
That sounds familiar, but at the same time, it doesn't. I don't know.
Joshua Harris said, I did the mods on Duelist 1954, said on his model on Pieta 51 Navy Slick Shot nipples, JB welded the hammer notch, works great. Perfect. Tim O'Neill said, treat with love and care and they won't let you down like any companion. Gray Pilgrim said, I own my own place in the country. It's far better than renting. Gray Pilgrim said, Slicks are best. Timber Drifter said, what do you think of the Blackie Thomas Percussion Revolver series? Are you familiar with it? A little bit.
Oh, yes, very much.
As a matter of fact, I bought, where the channel 11 Bang Bang bought one of his cap and ball revolvers, and Snapper rebuilt it for him, and we gifted it to him. It
was a Whitneyville Dragoon.
Whitneyville Dragoon, yes.
I nickel plated the bottom brass parts, and I also fire blued the trigger spring. It was the trigger. It was a gorgeous gun when it was done. Man, that thing was pretty.
We need to have him back. We used to have Blackie on this chat often, and he's such a great storyteller, and I need to have him back. We still text each other from time to time, but I need to have him back on sometime. But
yeah, I love listening to Black. I could hear him talk all day long. He's got some of the best stories, man.
He just goes.
He is a natural talker.
Beautiful. Gray Pilgrim said he is good and his gun butter is pure voodoo. No kidding. I just ran out of my first jar. I'm gonna have to order some more. I'll have to go back to my video to find out what the link was for me to order it.
I don't know what he did or he sold to somebody, but that stuff is phenomenal. I've never used anything better.
Too much there, Snapper. You'll be accused of being a snake oil salesman again.
Well, if telling the truth about something makes me a snake oil salesman, then by all means. We had a big one on that. That was fun.
I did a video where I tested it versus other things on a Remington revolver, and it just made the Remington revolver run and run and run. And then I purposely did not clean that Remington revolver for a month. Picked it up, put it on camera, cocked the hammer, spun it.
Yep.
And I was like, and then somebody was mad saying that Crisco works just as good. And I'm like, I've been shooting cap and ball revolvers my whole life. And yes, I have used Crisco, and yes, it works, but it doesn't work that good.
No. I've never, and this is not even just, I like Blackie. He's a good guy. I consider him a friend. But no matter who it is, if somebody's going to push something that I don't believe in, I'm not going to say something about it. I'm like, if I actually like it, I'll say something. If I don't, I might say that. I don't know. I haven't really come across much friend stuff that actually doesn't work very good, because most of the guys that I know on this, they're doing their best to be as honest and as truthful as possible. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, when it comes to that stuff, that Blackie's Gun Butter, I have never, ever used anything like it.
Yep.
It is the best I've ever seen ever for black powder firearms.
Flintlock patch.
Everything.
On a Kibler, load and load and load and load that 36 caliber Kibler literally all day long without stopping with that stuff.
I promise you that is not some sales bargain jargon. Just get a little bit and try it, and then you just go from there. I can guarantee you'll have some.
You know it's good when you wipe the bore between 3 shots. If you try to, it gets harder to load because you wiped all the gun butter out. It's actually easier to not swap the barrel and keep shooting.
Yeah.
That's good lube. That's what you're looking for.
A matter of fact, I have an older video of mine from when I shot my Griswold in Gunnison, because I was curious about regular black powder, and I was back at the time making the lamb's tallow and beeswax, historical style lube, right? And after like 50 shots, that gun is tight, like really tight. But I was kind of curious how hard is it to unloosen it once it happens. It's just a little tiny bit of water and the whole thing unloosens though. But the craziest thing about Blackie's Gun Butter, the gun never got tight, like at all. At 50th shot, it still felt like it was at the first 6 shots. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, they're still talking about the guns have a soul. Squibload said my firearms have a soul. Yeah, me and Plowboy had a conversation one day where we came to the conclusion that so long as it doesn't have plastic on it, it has a soul. But plastic starts chipping away the soul. The more plastic, the worse. I'm pretty sure Kel-Tec Sub 2000 doesn't have a soul. It's like a Frankenstein.
I think we would all agree on that one. I mean, I think the entire internet could get behind us on that.
Literally, the more wood the gun has on it, the more soul. So a Pennsylvania long rifle has about the most soul you can get, one with about a 43-inch barrel.
Would have to agree.
Oh, Ethan said.
Well, think about it too. Is the idea that wood was a living creature in itself, right?
It was something alive, yeah. The warmth of wood.
Warmth of the wood and the cold of that steel gives it a personality like nothing else.
Yep, because you feel like a man formed that a little more than plastic that was melted into a mold.
Yeah, it wasn't just injection molding. You had some guy over there with files or something.
The gun is way older than the gun is when you have wood on it. But anyway, Ethan, great program, said Blackie is an old fella who knows his stuff. But Ethan said, I'm pretty sure my French AN9 musket surrendered its soul at Waterloo. Oh, Joshua Sarah said, I had to be up early going to bed. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Night.
Kodak Tackman said, glad to know y'all are still in contact with old Blackie Thomas. I watch quite often. He's close to my area, and he's my go-to for black powder info and other outdoor life. Yeah, I think he moved his whole black powder thing to Rumble, though. Unless
I think so, too.
Great program.
His courses are good, by the way. He has a course where you can watch his courses, and they're good. I've seen pretty much. I think I've seen all of them for the most part, and they are actually good. I learned stuff.
Step above most people because of his history. He has gunsmithing, and that one story he has of the single action army going full auto. It's hard to believe, but when he explains it, you're like, it would absolutely can.
You're like that could happen. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but yeah, technically that could happen. Mm-hmm. Man, I want to see a single action army go full auto once. I want to see that.
it requires the wrong kind of firing pin and a combination of bad bad primers. But it can happen.
I want to see that so bad.
I
It'd be cool.
absolutely believe it with the in-depth description he made of that. Yeah, I do too. I was like,
Yeah.
could you imagine that with plowboy loads though? You'd be
Yeah, you shoot behind you.
Oh, Great Pilgrim said, I have a few that have a soul. Yes, your video on I think you have the 1892 Colt revolver that was your grandpa's, great grandpa's, with the original
That thing's got a
holster.
soul.
The holster has a soul too. It does. Yes, it does. Absolutely.
You know, like what you were saying earlier, though, like somebody actually had to sit down and take the time to build it, which you don't get out of plastic.
Yep.
But that's another reason why I love these old guns, because even the people who didn't make it, this is the closest you could get to shaking somebody's hand that's long dead.
Yep.
It's the closest you could get.
And that's where the history comes in, like especially on the trapdoors, because it's gotten to where the point where I've read so much, I know it's at least one of about 30 guys that formed this and put this part on of this gun in particular. And you're like, I don't know exactly which one it was, but I know what group it was, what those guys were going through at the time, what they felt, their reports back to the office, the guys who were sick, or, all those reports are in the records.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that, when you realize the amount of man hours it took to hand file this trigger guard to perfection to fit in here, and you're like, there is soul in here. This is something human about this again.
Yeah, very. You just don't get with mass-produced things that are not made by hand.
Yep.
But it is cool. And even the stories that pass along with them. Like, for instance, that little 73 Winchester right there.
Yep.
When that gun was new, there were no cars. Like, that thing had to ride on a horse and a buggy or a train to go anywhere. That means I guarantee you that thing has been on horseback, 100% been on horseback.
Oh, yeah.
And like 100%.
Just look at the wear patterns on it.
Oh, yeah, you could see where it would actually sit across you could see where it sits across the it's not the pommel, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
it would be the pommel, the horn, up in there.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal. That's so many of these guns. And like, for instance, that little guy, right? The only thing I know about that little guy is that it was in Louisiana. What was it?
War of 1812.
Battle of it was in the Battle of War of 1812, Jackson. It was not St. Louis. New Orleans, yes.
Yeah.
That was in New Orleans, and at one time must have been carried by a British officer. That's all we could say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was found there, like right after the battle, and that's what we know about it. That's about all I know about it. But
it's
just neat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they get a soul. And the older they get, the more soul they get. That's why I have a problem with blocks, because that polymer frame ain't gonna get old enough to have a soul.
I don't think so. I mean, unless the world changes really weird where they think plastic becomes a rare, strange, cool oddity.
Yep. Gray Pilgrim said my 1861 Springfield is haunted. Well, it's probably hanging around with your single action army.
Probably, yeah. You need to get it away from my single action army. It's got a bad. It's pretty bad about doing that. I wouldn't say it's a bad vibe. I think it's more like a, you better take care of this vibe, or I'll take care of you vibe.
That's
what it seems to me about.
Nah, I think all Kel-Tecs have a soul. Well, I guess if it means something to your soul, then it has a soul. So who am I to argue? Guns are good. All of them. I just like some better.
All of them. There's never been a bad gun.
Well,
there might have been some dumb ones, but never a bad gun.
I was about to say there's probably one or two that was, that first Patterson might be considered a bad gun. Oh, Kodak Tackman said agree on the plastic conclusion. And Gray Pilgrim said, I'm glad to know folks who are not in love with plastic guns. Yeah,
they're boring to me.
I've got a home defense shotgun and a couple of home defense revolvers. I just sold my last plastic gun. We got a pile of AKs. If I need one, I can go grab one. But I'm literally got to the point, and I was talking to Plowboy about this the other day. I'll probably never hunt center fire smokeless again. I haven't done it in like 3 years. I'll probably honestly never hunt smokeless, period, again.
I think unless it was a life and death situation where you ended up like in a
If it was life
that'd be
and death situation and I was hunting, I'd still use my flintlock, or a cap lock rifle or something. And I'm not saying there's anything against them. It's just, and some people love them, and I still have the revolvers. I like big bore revolvers, obviously, still, but or like 44 special and stuff like that, 45 Colt. But I was just telling, we were just talking to Plowboy, and I was like, there just comes a point where it gets boring. It all looks the same. And absolutely nothing against other people loving plastic guns or modern guns. Go for it. I have them for when I absolutely have to use them, but just for enjoyment and hunting, I think I'm past it now.
I think I got one exception for plastic, but a certain kind of plastic, Bakelite. Because then you can go onto the Vietnam era M16s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be.
And the early AK stuff. Like, I think those are that has a. It's I wouldn't say it's a step, like it's a step above plastic, but I think it's getting there close to maybe getting the soul area there because it's more of a natural plasticky. But yeah, and it has the history too, so it might give it a little bit more credence.
Yeah. I absolutely understand why you have to have modern guns, and I still have them. It's just not something I enjoy. The enjoyment's gone out of it. I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's just
same for me. I don't even enjoy shooting AR-15s anymore. Like, yeah. I just don't.
It's the process I'm more in love with in the history now, and so I literally sold off everything I could sell to invest in my other channel the other day, and I kept, like, of course I'm keeping all my black powder stuff, but everything I could sell and still not feel like I was underarmed or defensive. But it's like, how many AR-15s can you own? And you can, you only shoot one at a time. But I get it, to some people collecting those is like for us collecting cap and ball revolvers. Yeah. Or
some people just absolutely love them and think they're the coolest thing ever.
And if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But, that's just not me anymore. I just don't feel it. Okay. Timber Drifter said, I was really into black powder guns when I was a teenager 25 years ago, just now getting back into it. Well, I'm glad you're coming back to it.
Yeah, nice.
It's mostly because I haven't ran into I'm not in that crowd anymore that I was in, when I was 22 and in the oil field and everybody wanted, that stuff. The crowd I'm with is you and Duke. So it's like there's
the thing too is, like, think about it. When you're younger, you want the cool, high speed, fast, hardcore, violent.
The only exception is big bore revolvers, and Plowboy has me wanting a 41 Magnum.
He does that. Plowboy does that to people.
He affects people that way.
But once you kind of get out of that, now I want something that has real meaning. I want something that lasts a lifetime.
And the thing about flintlocks is you get to the point where you're like, I just want to build it myself. And with those long wood rifles, you pretty much can, except for the barrel and lock. And some people can even do it. What is cooler than passing down a family heirloom that you built yourself?
Exactly. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? I mean, we always say it as like, oh, today's today, but 50 years ago, I'm sure grandparents were talking like the way we're talking here, and oh yeah, I don't know if I build one. They probably wouldn't. And you would kill to have a rifle that your like great grandfather would have built. Mm-hmm. Build one. It'll stay in the family as long as you don't have any weird kids.
Yeah, exactly.
But can you imagine that? Like, that is a part of you that you can be passed down. I think that's great. I think everybody should at least do that once.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now because Ethan's building those. And I'm getting into it too. I'm building one. I'm building Snap-ons, but Ethan's building those rifle shop kits from Castings.
Yeah.
That's literally as close as you can get to building a gun without hand forging the parts, because you've literally got to heat treat every spring. You've got to bend every piece. You've got to forge every piece in. And he's getting good at it. And I was like, I'm more of the woodworker. He's more of the metal worker. I want to see what we can pull off.
If you got a hot enough forge, like you could like cast metals and some carving equipment, you can then make all the castings yourself too.
Yeah, could. You technically
mean-
could. You technically could, and I suppose
Yeah.
we should just do that, I guess, eventually. But
One of these days, I mean, that would be cool. Like, don't get me wrong, the rifle shot stuff, that is, truthfully, that is building a gun from scratch.
yeah,
But that little bit step above that would be even building it
out.
completely from scratch. Yeah.
Hammering out your own barrels and everything.
Yeah.
That I imagine that's in the works someday. We'd
Someday.
have to
Yeah.
like we would have to build a blacksmith shop and everything. For
I think, yeah, you'd have to build up to that. That's a little bit of a
that.
leaping off a cliff
Yeah.
scenario, doing it without never doing it before, or at least any experience like that.
James Cox said, "How's the best way to lube patches? With lamb tallow and beeswax, hot dip them and pat them, or how?" How I do it, and this is just me, and I've done it a few times. I used to use the tallow. I've used wax. I've used it, all kinds of stuff. I really like the Blackie Thomas's gun butter because it just works so well. And what I'll do is I will put it in. Actually, I cheat a little bit. This is not historic, but I'll take a pill bottle, and I will either, if I'm using cut patches, pre-cut patches, I'll just stack them in there. And if I'm using rolled patch material that I'm going to cut at the muzzle, I'll roll it up real tight and stack it in there. And then I'll daub a spoonful of Blackie's gun butter on top, seal it up, put it in the microwave for 45 seconds. And if it's a good wool patching, pillow ticking material, it'll sop all that up. Then I take it out on the concrete with a rubber mallet, and I just set the whole pile of, I'll do 200 at a time maybe. I'll split them up into piles of about 50, set them on the concrete, give them one solid whack while they're still warm with the mallet. That'll spray out the stuff. And I know a lot of people say you're wasting lube when you do it that way. You could do it on a pan and save it, but that's just how I do it. And I can do 200-300 in a matter of, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I like to keep them pretty wet. Some people don't like to, because if you leave your gun loaded, it can soak up some of the powder. But I tend to not leave my guns loaded in the house,
especially like a flintlock.
I mean, historically, I know why you would do it, but
Right.
I don't tend to leave them loaded because I got to clean them. And if you're going to shoot till it's empty and then clean it, you can't leave it loaded. I guess you could load it right after you cleaned it, but I was always afraid that I would forget and double load it when I got back out to shoot it. So I just leave them empty.
I always have a paranoia that somehow it's going to create a corrosion, even though I know it doesn't. I mean, I've seen so many guns that have been loaded for way longer than I've been alive, but
Yeah, it just feels wrong.
it just feels wrong to me. Yeah.
Okay, iPod. Okay, let me see if I can get down here. Let's see. Yeah, you're talking about the single action Army full auto, or Desert Rat said that's like the 90s conversion full auto SKS by reversing the firing pin. iPod Walker said, what happened to the rifles that were issued to Lewis and Clark expedition? Nobody really knows, but a serial number 15, 1803 Harper's Ferry prototype rifles showed up like 2 years ago. And for years, people debated, did Lewis and Clark take the 1803? Did they take the 1792 contract rifles shortened? There was good evidence for both sides, but now we have number 15, which he ordered 15 guns. And it seems to be the Lewis and Clark gun. And unless somebody disproves it,
That'd be cool.
I'm pretty well convinced that's it. There's still a lot of evidence for the 1792s, but there is a video out on the firearms of Lewis and Clark. It's a lecture done by the National Park Service. I cannot remember his name who does the lecture, but he has collected a lot of original pieces, guns that could be, and he gives a whole breakdown on why the new evidence now is starting to point to the 1803 versus the 1792. I got no dog in the fight. It's literally, if you're into the flintlock muzzle loading world, snapper, this is literally Remington and Colt type aggression.
Right.
These people have.
Okay, I get it.
And so it's like, I'm not stepping one way or the other, but there is some very, very high strung people.
I didn't know much about Lewis and Clark until I started on Josh's Wild West Extravaganzas videos. Like that. That's pretty cool. It's something I haven't learned in a long time. I'm kind of going back through it.
Well, he asked me to do kind of some of the gun study for him on that series, and so I did. And I was not leaning one way or the other for the 1792 rifles or the 1803 Harper's Ferry. See, the trouble with the 1803 Harper's Ferry was they take off in, June of 1803, and Harper's Ferry presents the first 1803 Harper's Ferry in December of 1803 to the Secretary of War. So the argument was, well, there weren't any made before they left, so therefore they had to have old 1792 contract rifles that were made. It's a whole different animal. They cut them down, board them up, and that's what they had. Well, there was some argument that Lewis and Clark had made 15 prototypes of the 1803 Harper's Ferry. And when they take the gun to Secretary of War in December, he says, I don't prefer this change. It has to have a brass piece on the end. He's like, you don't have a brass piece there. There's a change here, a change there. Well, serial number 15 does not have any of those changes.
So those 15 seem more just like prototypes.
Those are 15 prototypes.
Hey, we made these prototypes for you guys to go walk a long ways in that direction.
Yep.
And it should be good for it.
Seems
that
to
makes
be
sense.
Some argument. And the only argument for the 1792 guns were, the whole argument was, we don't have any existing guns like this, except we have the one they gave to Dearborn, Secretary.
Gotcha.
Now we have one.
And it matches. It really matches.
And it is serial number 15, unless it's proven to be a fake, which is always possible, as you know.
Of course.
But at the moment, it seems to be leaning that way. But the guns that Lewis and Clark had, pretty sure they got pretty hard used on that 3-year journey.
I would expect.
When they came back, my guess would be, because most of them were 1795 Springfields or the American musket of Charlottesville pattern. So my guess is when they get back, they turn those guns back into the muskets into Springfield and the rifles into Harper's Ferry, where they'll go for repairs. And any parts that are not repairable, they sell them for scrap. And any parts that are repairable get put in spare parts bins for repairing another gun, and they just get disassembled into nothing.
That sucks. But I also see how that happens.
Yeah, it would be like today trying to find a certain,
yeah,
the rifle you went through boot camp with, Snapper.
Right?
Yeah, I bet it doesn't even exist anymore.
No, the one I want is the Beretta I used when I was deployed. I want that freaking Beretta M9 so bad.
Yep. Let's see.
Yeah, it probably doesn't even. I mean, for all I know, it's parts. But yeah, I mean, it's understandable because they saw these as tools. They weren't really looking at them as a historic thing at the time.
Yep. I think by Landon C's talking about old guns with souls, he said sometimes the older they get, the crankier they get. That
would definitely fit with some of my guns.
Sometimes the older they get, the crankier they get. Let's see. Louisiana Gray said, might have been the pirate Lafayette putting a British on the run in 1812. If only you could talk. Yeah, he's talking about your sea service pistol.
Oh yeah. All I know about it is it came from a museum that was part of the battle of why do I keep thinking I keep thinking St. Louis, but it's not St. Louis. It's Louisiana. New Orleans, the Battle of New Orleans, where Jackson, did his thing. That's where it was supposedly a battlefield pickup from when it was bought from the museum. That's all listed at it in its auction.
That's kind of a happy and sad thing that most of our best guns we buy from museums, because somebody donated that to that museum expecting it to be forever on display. I mean, we're happy we got it and we're taking care of it, but it's sad to know that the museums just sell them.
That's why I tell people, don't donate your gun to a museum. Don't do it, because unless it is some really rare special thing, if your great grandfather was, General Patton, yes, donate that to a museum. But if he was just, Private Joe Snuffy with the 101st Airborne and he brought this Luger back, don't donate it to a museum, because all it's going to go is it's going to go put in a box somewhere in the bottom of the basement, potentially not get seen in decades, and more likely it's just going to get sold to make the museum money. I promise you, more than one of my guns has been through museums. I swear on my life, I'm pretty sure the Dragoon has been through a museum.
I know a lot of ours have, because we buy them from the museum.
Exactly. And all that happens is that means somebody gave that away for free, and that museum saw it and said, let's make cash with this.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of putting it in a museum, go take it to a nice auction company and just let it get auctioned, and it will end up at a better home anyway. Somebody will actually probably care for it.
Now, as Doug Dukes always reminds me, there are exceptions. The Texas Ranger Museum, and I trust him, and he says that that's a good place. Museum of the Fur Trade, places like that where they actually, or the Cody Firearm Museum to an extent. But you just always got to bear in mind that if the museum is not firearms based, they don't like guns, most of them, to start with.
And even if they are, like I don't even know about Cody, Wyoming. But
the only thing I have with that
if they have everything, what do they need one more for?
They literally already have everything. If you donate it, it's probably, unless it's something super special, like you said.
Unless it's super duper special, like really special, just sell it on the market. If you have to get rid of it, you don't know I want to keep it in your family, I say just keep it in your family. But if you have to get rid of it, make some money with it. It doesn't make you a bad person. I would rather see you put it into the firearms trade where people are going to care for it and give money. You actually get something from it, because all you're going to do is go give it to a museum thinking you did a good thing. At the end of the day, all you did was the museum kind of just robbed you.
Yeah.
Because you thought it was going to go somewhere good.
Museum.
You just donated a bunch of money to a museum.
That's if you're lucky. If you're unlucky, they will permanently damage the gun to display it.
That happens more than you would know.
Or dip it in wax. Not going there tonight, but yeah. Anyway,
it's just I really would love it. If you ever know anybody who's trying to donate something to a museum, just let them know the true facts of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That you're giving this to basically a corporation, and the corporation does whatever it wants with it. You're not going to have a say so, unless you're donating it, like not donating it, but letting them use it. And they're not even going to want it unless it's something really, really, really crazy or special to somebody, or real rare or something. So just, if you have to get rid of it, just sell it. Put it on the market, make some good money for you and your family. You have to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. David W. said, good night, guys. Getting late in Ohio.
Good night.
Louisiana Gray was talking about the Sea Service pistol. He said that was Lafayette. Guns and Water said the Zip 22 is a bad gun. Put the maker out of business.
That is a pretty bad gun. Zip 22, is that the one that shoots like 2 bullets at a time?
I think now that might be the one that has the big trigger. I have to think. I think that's.
Oh, I think it might be the one with the big trigger where it has like it's double finger long.
That's like the triple threat or something. It's called the.
Yeah, it's like what in the world? Yeah, that is a bad gun.
I don't think that's the Zip. Franklin Horse said, not much wood on a 1911, and I have to think some of them have a soul. Yeah, but they got some wood.
Some got some wood. I mean, World War I's.
Yep.
And like I said, Bakelite might come into play when it comes to plastics. I think that might be on the edge.
Half soul.
I would accept it. It's passable. It's passable.
Rock McLaughlin said, my AR for coyotes and chicken defense. Otherwise, I usually stick to bows or black powder. Yeah. I've started getting the 36 caliber muzzle loaders for coyotes and chicken defense, 36 and 32s. Really want to get out there and try that Burns rifle, that 32 on a coyote hunt, because it's sighted in for such long range.
That would be really cool. That would actually be really cool. I'm curious how that would do.
About 40 grains of powder. I think that would really actually lay that little bitty 32 caliber round ball out there.
I have a feeling it would.
The best badness said, I'd like to get a wood furniture G3. Yeah, Oregon Outback said, my boots have a sole. Mine do too, but the sole has a hole in it. That's
very holy.
Oh,
very holy.
Lucky Gunner said about the modern Smith & Wessons with the key lock on the side of them. That's the hole where the gun sole leaks out.
True story.
Let's see. Timber Drifter said, I definitely enjoy the Bakelite AK mag. Something special about them in a weird kind of way.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bakelite, we should make an exemption for Bakelite.
Yeah. Well, Gunsmith 4570 said, I'd love to go to a gun show that did not look like an AR-15 factory blew up all over it. Wood and steel as the best. Well, you need to go to that antique arms show where Snapper goes every year out there in Vegas.
I would say you usually only see one or two AR-15 style rifles there, and they're usually like an M110, like sniper rifle, like actual U.S. military sniper rifle, something, but or a real Mark 12. But yeah, go to the antique arms show in Las Vegas. You'll be pretty happy. Mm-hmm. It's decently sized. I would say it's definitely worth doing at least once. At least one time. It's good.
Yeah, Kodak Tackman said, my favorite handgun so far is an 1873 single action chamber for 45 Colt, and my favorite rifle is a lever gun. Take your pick. What's your favorite pistol, Snapper?
Oh, everybody knows that. Single action Army, 1873 single action Army, 100%.
I got a little nostalgia myself for the 72 open top that I have, but that's just for the history of it.
I don't have any experience with 72s. I love the way they look, though.
By Landon C said, Ethan, I want to be just like you when I grew up. Oh, Ethan said, but muzzle litters give me the bestest feelings when I build it myself. Oh, let's see. The best badness said, I'd like to try building an 8K one day, but IDK, I don't know if I'd do it very well. Don't let Ethan fool you. Them first few, when he was trying to beat receivers out of windmill fins, they weren't very pretty. It takes a little practice. Kodak Tackman said, AR and tactical kind of fell out of the way a couple years ago, but it started with the Western theme to begin with. Oh, AR and tactical kind of fell out of the way a couple years ago. Gotcha. Vaquero Joel said, look for Wallace Gessler, the gunsmith, Colonials Willenberg. It was filmed. Oh, yeah. I'm extremely familiar with that video. And I know he.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
I've been familiar with that video since I can't remember when I first watched it.
It's been on YouTube for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, Ethan said, as long as you can pay attention to detail and headspace, it's not too hard. Oregon Outback said, I thought the Blackfeet had a few of them. Yeah, the Wallace Gessler video on YouTube is very interesting. Yeah, he actually has some more modern stuff, too. He, not too long ago, did a lecture on the Southern Virginia rifle, the early Virginia Shenandoah rifles. And he did an excellent job on that about 6 months ago, I think it was, maybe a year ago. At least that's when the video was released. You just have to type in early Virginia rifle into YouTube, and as an old man, he does a complete breakdown of it. Oregon Outback said, I highly recommend giving your antique firearms to the Museum of the Outback. Yeah, Ethan said the Zip 22 doesn't even look like a gun. Kerry Stottlemyre said, in California, we don't have gun shows. We have beef jerky and bead shows.
That's what I've heard. You go to a gun show and there's like no guns there. It's just like people selling all the little odd and end stuff.
Yeah, Donald Benson said the Antique Arms Show in Maryland is really good. Just bring your whole bank account.
The one in Vegas is like that, but there are good deals to be found. I found a couple of really good deals there.
Yep. And Ethan
really good deals there.
Ethan said, stop going to gun shows over a decade ago. Too many charlatans. Yeah, and that's the difference. Yeah. When we're talking about these antique arms shows, that's where you're bringing in all the big auction houses and everything, bringing stuff to show up.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of trouble with the little local gun shows.
When it comes to the ones like, oh, go ahead.
The same guys have been showing up for 40 years, and they've been bringing the same piece of junk single shot shotgun for 35 of those years. And every year it goes up in price, but they have never spent any money on oil or anything. I'll tell you the funniest thing I ever seen, because we used to hit all those gun shows. Then we started going to gun auctions, and where the market was actually right, not just the I know what I have fella, you know.
Yeah.
Well, gun auctions started taking off around here, and people started going to them, and the gun shows started dying. So one of the big gun dealers, and he was a local guy from a gun show, said, all right, I'll have my auction. I'm going to auction off a big chunk of my collection that I've been bringing these gun shows. I'm just going to set it up for auction. He invited everybody out to his farm. They had this huge auction set up, and he probably had 150 people there, and the auctioneers started rattling off, and he had an old Stevens Model C 410 shotgun that had a broken fore end, and that auctioneer started off, who would give me $200? Nobody.
Nobody.
Give me 100. Nobody. Who'll give me 10? Got a bid. And then we started running. He got it up to about $30. People stopped bidding. The guy comes running up. Hold it. Stop the auction. Stop. I'm not giving these pieces of art away for $25. He shut the whole thing down, sent everybody home.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
I'll never forget that. We're not giving these guns away. And I was like, you literally just found market value for that gun you've been trying to sell 30 years for $300. And it was like, those are the kind of gun show guys. I just quit going to gun shows because it was, they think they know absolutely everything, but they've never cracked a firearms book in their life. Everything they know is because they spent 30 years talking to the other guys that are their same age around at the other tables. And their gun values and their gun stories get bigger and bigger and bigger every year, even though we've never actually spent $50 on a firearms book in our life, you know. And we definitely don't. I would say for those guys, even try the internet, but most of them don't do that either. So,
that's funny. That is pretty funny. But when it comes to certain gun shows, like if you're always worried about the sellers or like how shysty people can be, what is nice about the Las Vegas Antique Arms Show is you're vetted if you sell, and if anything you ever sell comes up not what it's supposed to be, you're never allowed to post there again, ever. Like you're blackmailed for life kind of thing, or blackout or blacklisted for life. So you have a really good, and most of it's big companies like Murphy's, Rock Island Auction Company, and most of the people there are big time collectors too. And honestly, the guns that you find good, it's usually these little auction companies that they'll have an auction, but they'll also have stuff for sale. And you usually find really good deals on that because it's some grandma brought in something. Oh, I just want to get this much for it, and that's how much it'd be for sale for. Like that Pocket Navy, I think it was $500. $500, man. And I just like, I couldn't even believe it was $500. I couldn't jump fast enough to pay the man.
Yep.
It's stuff like that. And I've come across single action army like frames that I wish I would have bought it. It was an entire frame, and it was an actual I want to say it was like the late 1870s frame, military frame with all the the frame itself was $200. Should have bought it.
Yeah.
Because you can't even find a frame for under $1,000 these days. You can't even find half a gun for under $1,000 these days.
Yep. I wanted one time, and Ethan said he wanted me to tell this story, but I wanted a left-handed 30-06 bolt action one time real bad, and I was about 25 or so. And so I was like, I really wanted a Winchester, had Winchester money, working in the oil field, but you can't never find a left-handed, So I walk in this gun show one day, little gun show, paid more money to get in the gun show than the guns were worth in there. But I got in there, and this guy has this Savage 110 wood stock. The wood's all beat up. It's actually a pretty old Savage 110, left-handed. And so I pick it up, and I open it, and pa-ching, the spring comes shooting out the top. I asked him, I said, is that supposed to happen? He said, yeah, that's an M1 Garand action on this Savage 110. He said, it's a special deal. I was like, but I hadn't seen any other deer season was coming. I didn't see any other guns close by. And I was like, all right, he wanted like $500 for it. So I was like, I really don't care. I bought it, $500. I bought it. Wasn't what I was looking for. I walked out. I told Ethan, I was laughing. I said, you want to see an M1 Garand action on a bolt action? I pulled it out, and that spring goes ping. And Ethan says, "Here, let me show you." He pulls the pin, pulls the floor plate, turns it around right side up, and then says, "Now it works," because the floor plate was just upside down. It's like if I'd really been like in a bad way, I wouldn't have given him the $500 because that was probably overpaying for it.
That's funny.
But it was one of those deals. I had the money. There was no others, and deer season was around the corner, so I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care. It was like just turned the floor plate over, and we killed the M1 Grand Action. Probably knocked $100 off the value of that gun. Took the
Right
M1
away.
Grand Action out of it. Let's see. The best badness said I did see a cool Colt Police positive at a gun show recently. Yeah, if you're going to get one of those, make sure you know what you're getting, because a lot of people buy those to say 38 and don't realize that's a 38 Smith & Wesson. The Colt Police Positive Special is a 38 Special. I'm sure you know that already, though. I'm just giving that to you. Josh Gascon said, just got off work late again. Hi, y'all. Kerry Stottlemyre said, we had a few of those guys at our local gun show. Same guy, same junk, just a higher price every time I see him. That's exactly right. But when Snapper's talking about the Antique Arms Show, he's talking about people like Rock Island Auction showing up with a walker. It's not.
Yeah, you see high-end guns. You're going to see like 40, 50 Henrys. I mean, hundreds of Winchesters. Some of the rarest, like ones of 1000s, 1 of 100s. All that's there. It's basically like if you were a billionaire, you could walk out of that place with a museum pretty close to, like Cody, Wyoming style museum. Imagine going to Cody, Wyoming museum and everything's for sale. That's the best way to put it.
Oh, it's basically the SHOT Show, but for antique guns, and it's actually the same week as SHOT Show.
It's the exact same week. Yep.
Let's see. Brandon Birch said, Snapper, is there any way I can visit with you about single action armory parts, frame, barrel, hammer, lower, trigger guard?
Yeah, sure.
Go comment on his channel.
Yeah, you leave me a comment, and I'll teach you how to. I'll give you information to contact me.
Bring 50 subscribers with you, and he'll give you free information. The best badness said, I didn't get it. Grandpa told me he had an old official police at home, like Bogey had in the Big Sleep. Yeah, that kind of get romantic for those old revolvers like that too. Those are the exception that I'll still look at. That Army Special, once I figured out what it needed to shoot, that was a sweet shooting gun. And
not bad.
Kerry Stottlemyre said that'd be the only reason I'd ever go to Vegas.
I agree.
If you're gonna lose all your money anyway, you might as well bring a gun home, right?
Exactly. I promise you, unless you're like some professional gambler, you're not going to win any money here. I think those days for Vegas is long gone. This place sucks money. It does not give away money.
I just never forget that golden era of auctions. It was before people started the online bidding real heavy, and right after the gun shows. Oh, that was so sweet. We just
I bet.
Well, you were there for part of it.
Oh yeah, for the pot. Oh man, I was
original Colts for $500.
Yeah, I know. And that's still probably the best deal I've ever seen on a 49 pocket model.
Well, it was during a rush on AR-15s, and literally everybody was bringing their stuff to sell, and those little
so they could buy AR-15s. Yeah.
Well, I remember that's when those first cheap, not Indian, but who makes those cheap shotguns, semi-autos, and pump actions? Why can I not think of it? They're not Pakistani. They're it's when those first cheap import shotguns were coming in, and it was before the pandemic. I can't remember when it was exactly.
It was right after we were in the pandemic at that time, but just barely.
And people were giving $1,000 a piece at those auctions for those cheap import shotguns because there just weren't any. And Colt revolvers were sitting on the table for $400. And it was just Turkish. Yes, Turkish. That's what I was thinking. And it was just the greatest time to be an antique firearms collector. Now is not that time.
No.
Everybody's selling AR-15s all across the United States and trying to buy classic guns again. But it just goes in waves, and you just got to watch the wave.
Yep, you just got to watch that wave and ride it if you get the chance to. That is the best way to get some really nice guns. And what's kind of nice too is, and another reason I always tell people to do it if you have the opportunity is, they always become more valuable. I mean, I don't know of any gun that gets cheaper when it comes to antique guns, like actual real antique guns. That, yeah, you might find a wave where little stupid stuff happens to make it cheaper, but overall, you can flip a 49 pocket around any time and make more than you're going to pay for it.
I just
5 years or just a year ago.
You bought that 49 pocket model for like $400, $500.
It's 500, I believe.
And I walked away with an original Metropolitan Arms 51 Navy for $200. And
I know.
Whitneyville double barrel 10 gauge muzzle loading shotgun. It didn't have the hammers, needs the hammers for $150. A Whitneyville, like same Whitneyville that made the Walkers. So,
that little 49 pocket is really nice. You know, it's still one of the nicest 49 pockets I've seen in a long time. It is in great shape.
Ethan went to the auction the day before and bought an FN49 30-06 and his Webley Mark 6 for $120 a piece during that run. It was a magical year.
Hopefully, you know, if we ever have anything stupid happen, which I hope we don't, but at the same time, it is what's nice is everybody's looking for new stuff. They want to get rid of their old stuff to buy new stuff when they're scared.
Yep. I mean, people were just hauling wood and steel guns in by the barrel full. You could trade in, if it was old and wood and steel, they would trade 4 or 5 for one AR-15. I remember H110 powder was selling for $300 for 10 pounds. AR-15s were bringing, oh man, I can't remember. Like Palmetto State Armory ARs were bringing $1,100 at that auction.
Which is insane.
Were bringing $1,000. I'll just never forget it. It was the craziest auction of my life. And then Caleb was over there bidding against you.
I know.
It would have been even cheaper.
There's even video footage of it too.
Yep. Ethan said he also picked up 1,800 rounds of surplus 303 for $50. Yeah, it was crazy times at those auctions. And then
that was good
that
times.
auction back to a gun show where that guy still got that single shot for $400. It was ridiculous.
Well, I can definitely tell you that last year, this year's antique gun shop, it went up a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
Metropolitans for $3,000. You know,
I know, it's crazy. Last auction I went to, they had a Rossi R92 stainless steel long octagon barrel for $900. That was high. That was crazy for me. And that's just looking around in these junk old classic guns, but I would say they were in poor condition.
Yeah.
You know, the old the Winchester single shot, I can't remember what model it was, but there's a single shot Winchester that, you know, generally sells $400 or $500. Those things were bringing $1,200. I was like, man, the wave just, there's highs and lows, and you got to hit it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, anything, if it had Colt on it at the last show, you're going to spend $3,000 to get it.
Yep.
And the single actions, I think the cheapest one I saw was $6,000. It was insane, insane.
Lever actions are getting crazy. That's for sure. That's badness. It's because of Yellowstone in 1883. And Kevin Costner's releasing 2 more Westerns this summer together, the Horizon series. Look out. Depending on what they use in those movies, I think it's going to be a wave to ride. It's
always at least a little one or a big one. What? Even little ones will save you or get you.
Which it's not bad, because it may be the time to, if you have a pile of antique guns, maybe it's time to get rid of a few of those lessers and save that
get yourself some biggers.
Get something you want. You know, it's not bad. You just got to learn to ride the waves like YouTube.
Yep.
Ups and downs. Well, we've been going for 2.5 hours here. Are you tired yet?
I can hang out for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well,
if you're tired, we can go.
On you.
Yeah.
No,
it's all up to you, buddy. I don't mind.
I'm good. Let's see. Lever actions are getting crazy. The best badness talk about those movies said, please don't have a Winchester 86 in it. Yeah, back in 2012, those run on ARs picked up a Remington auto-loading rifle, 35 Remington for 150, pre-model 8, 1906, great rifle. Yep, that's when to do it. I had a pile of 22 back then that I sold for a lot of money.
Matter of fact, that's probably what I should do next time there's a big rush. I've got way too much 22. My dad had, shoo.
Just wait till closer to November. It'll be worth a lot of money. I guarantee.
Turn into something I will never use to flop it into something I might.
Yep, that's no kidding. Here lately, I just turn everything into flintlocks because I know I'll be able to shoot them no matter what. No matter what, I can find.
I'm praying that we'll get some good runs of some caps because it's been a while since I've shot any cap and ball stuff since Jake was down.
Yep.
And yeah,
so you're about to run out of that last stash that you found.
No, I still have plenty of it. It's just I hate shooting that Remington number 11 or that CCI number 11. It just doesn't work very good at all in those guns.
It's not enjoyable for most people.
No, if you're having to fight it all the time, it's not enjoyable. And then it makes the gun, you look at the gun bad, but once you get decent caps, it shoots beautifully.
Yep. Well, we didn't buy caps, but last December when everybody was talking about there's going to be this powder shortage, we stocked up on primers. So we're good to go there at least. And I
could never find any large pistol primers. All I could find was small.
We bought a bunch of them online. They were a little higher, but not terrible.
I ended up with a crap ton of small. Matter of fact, I saw this. I saw a video of a guy who was loading 45 Colt, but it actually had small primers, small pistol primers.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, that must be interesting. Having a lathe, I wonder if I could do that.
Well, there's
modify
some 45 ACP I've seen the small pistol primer pockets.
I'm sure small pistol primers would still set off black powder 45 Colt all day long. Yeah,
they do. It'd probably be fine because
last year
I bought that Ruger in 44 Special. I shot 1,500 rounds of 44 Special last year. I know that because I had 500 pieces of brass and I've reloaded it 3 times. So, I've reloaded it twice and it's empty now. So, I did spend a lot of time with that last year, but it wasn't for hunting. That was just every day I'd go out and shoot a handful.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rock McLaughlin says Snapper Powder Valley still has RWS 1075s in stock. Timber Drifter said, fellas, thanks for the show. Gotta be at the farm at 6 a.m. Gotta go. Well, we'll see you. Oh.
How many people we got in here right now? I can't see.
49. We've been up to 7.
Oh, nice.
And Rock McLaughlin and Timber Drifter just left because now we're at 48.
I appreciate you guys for sticking in with us. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a while since I've been on a live. It seems like it's been quite a while, especially with you on a live.
Yep. Well, I probably won't be back on this for a while. I'm going to let Ethan have it. The only reason I'm here tonight is because he had to be gone for Army stuff. But I need to start. We've talked for a long time about the same way I do. I co-host the Tales of the Trails with Duke. I need to start co-hosting a show with you on a different night.
Yeah, or if you do a show on your new channel, let me know. I'll happily help with that too.
I'm at 630 subscribers, so I need 1,000 to. Well, I guess I don't technically have to have 1,000. Not if I use StreamYard. But no, might be.
I'll throw some words out. Try to get you some more subs.
I'm not worried about it. That's like I've said before to everybody. That's my enjoyment channel. It's like if it ever becomes a hassle or the comment section starts getting too crazy, I don't care over there. I just delete people. I don't care. If people start getting too rowdy in there, I don't put up with it anymore. When I first started 11 Bang Bang, well, I didn't start it, Ethan did, but when we first started, it was like, we have to please everybody. We have to have.
Oh, I remember.
We have to do everything just right. And then after about the 20,000th subscriber, we were like, if somebody's feeling gets hurt because we said something that was right, I don't care anymore.
Yeah. It's like that person wasn't a fan anyways if they get upset about hurt so easily over other people's opinions.
I'm like, it's there's too many good subscribers out there to be worried about the bad ones.
Exactly.
Oh.
Matter of fact, I've been kind of thinking about maybe starting another channel just because I don't want to stick any of the motorcycle stuff on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it to chase anybody away. But I definitely been thinking about maybe doing just because I get a little bit different side of me. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know me. It's kind of weird because I'll jump head first into any comments war because I just don't care. You know I will. On any channel. It's not necessarily the commenters. Like I said, I just don't care anymore for a lot of the ringy ones. But it was when other channels got ringy with me that was starting to bother me. And I know. Step away from that. But
I know.
Yeah, him and Jake know. Just send me your evil commenters. I will jump headfirst in and stay there all day long.
Oh yeah. Like we said it a million times. Like you said before when we first started this, it's like, oh, let's try to be nice and now it's kind of like, hey, I'm kind of bored. You guys got any messed up comments?
Yeah, anybody we can fight over there? And Jake always has one. Always. Poor Jake. Oh. Yeah, the funniest part is so many people get on him, and I don't see it. I don't understand it. He does everything he can to be as blatant and honest and truthful and not hide anything, but yet still people get butthurt about it. Yep. Ethan said I release my inner smart aleck on trolls. Yeah. I do have fun with that. Like I said, it got to where there were some other channels that were bugging me, and that was when I decided I need to get off of here for just a little while. But you know what? I've been off for about a month. I feel pretty good about it. I've actually sat down and, like I said, Noah and I have been making stuff, getting stuff done on Sundays for the other channel, even if we haven't released a lot of videos. And I've actually felt the creative mind start to flow again. I got ideas again. I'm not just feeling like, I gotta go to the next video. So whenever I do come back full time to this channel at some point, there's gonna be a lot of good ideas that I have for both channels. Of course. Well, I mean, you gotta have time off, man. Don't get burnt out. Yeah, and I sent you that one text that one day. I sent you a text that I think I sent it to Duke, and I was like, I never want to see another YouTube screen again. I never want to see another analytics page again. I was like, I'm getting past that now. I feel pretty good coming on here tonight. This is the first time I felt like even coming on a chat outside of Duke's for a while. I'm feeling pretty good about it again. Ugh. I'm glad. Kind of missed you a lot. Yeah, we'll be back at it. But I also have to give Ethan his time because there's a lot of Flintlock guys of course. Want to spend some time too. So like I said, I'll be back full time, just not for a little while. Oh. I understand. Heck, I've been away from the whole thing pretty much realistically, other than the live since the beginning of the year, just because I've been doing other stuff, spending time with the wife and whatnot. And I actually feel better myself. Like, even though I wasn't a hard workload or anything like that, it just, if you step away from it a while, you can look back at it and see things that you didn't either appreciate or care about that much. And, you get the juices flowing again for creativity. That's okay. Ethan knows because I told him you're going to do it now for a while. And he was like, yeah, I'm coming back. I'll do it. And now he's getting behind on the videos. And he's like, videos, I got to get a video. And I'll call him in the middle of the day. And I'll be like, I have this great idea. Yeah. Be like, we got to get a video out this week. Not a video that's going to take us 3 months to make. Hey, I got to let you go, man. My stomach is killing me. That fancy restaurant food. Whoo, boy. Yep. Well, I'm going to shut her down anyway. Been going almost 3 hours. So, bye, Snapper. If you're headed out. Bye, guys. All right, we'll see you. All right, guys, for any of you that's still out there, I'm going to let this run for just a little bit longer. If you got any last minutes, comments, questions, or concern, throw them out there, and we'll pull out of here in about 10 minutes. Appreciate you, too, Best Badness. Adios, says Desert Rat. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Rock McLaughlin. I forgot to read that. Yeah, that Powder Valley has RWS 1075s in stock. I'm sure he'll see that when he'll probably check out the end of this. Talkers will be blocked. I know what you mean, Kerry Stottlemyre. And I don't mind the comments because I'll go into it with the comments. It's when other channels start getting ringy with you over nothing. I had actually a bunch of them that were just pretty demanding of my time, and there was a lot going on. And I was like, guys, you gotta settle down. And most of them got mad and left me anyway, so I don't care. I've met a lot of good people over this live chat, and I got plenty of channels I talk to. Let's see. Desert Rat said this is better television. Okay, a few more questions here. Thanks, great one. Adios. Just having fun said, what was the most interesting flintlock you have shot or seen? One that you wanted to add to the collection? Well, right now I really want a 62 caliber rifle, but that's just right now. The one I've wanted to add and couldn't, there is a special matchlock at the rifle shop that's already built, and I think it's called the Newtown musket. It's supposed to be one of the replica of the first National Guard issue gun, and it's a matchlock from the 1620s, I think, with a rounded butt and very high quality maple. That's one I've always kind of wanted to add, but it's a pie in the sky at the moment because I don't need another matchlock. Best Badness said, I got a question you've more than likely heard before. If you don't mind, yeah, go ahead and ask it. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere, Louisiana Gray. I'm just taking a break for a while. And I'm always going to be over on Duke's chat. Gotsalico said, thank you for an entertaining evening. Yeah, Clary Sotomayor said you sort the wheat from the chaff for sure. Ethan said the wall gun's one he'd like to add. We already have, I think, bought, so we will be adding. Plowboy's Ghost. Hi, Plowboy. We'll get you on sometime. He said, still going, I see. Yep, we're about to shut her down. The project videos are real cool. Hint, hint. Yeah, that's, and we're going to see a lot more of them. A lot of people don't like them, but we can do those inside after dark, after work, and not worry about the wind. So, the last project video we did was the Lehman rifle, I believe. It's done. Ethan's already took it out and shot it. Everything's glued up. Everything's perfect to go on it. We just got to get a video filmed of shooting it. After that, we have an African slave trade musket with a broken stock that I really want to. It's got a brown best barrel. It's a real interesting gun. It's authentic, historical. It was a flintlock converted to cap. We've had it for a long time, and I've needed to clean it up and do some work on it. Haven't got to it, but Ethan and I dug it out the other day and said, if we do another project gun video, that'll be the one. So, yeah, I'm glad you like them because they're easy to make. Oh, yes, there are definitely, Best Badness, there are definitely converted Dragoons. I don't know if I have a picture right now. I have a picture of a third model converted Dragoon with a 44 rimfire cylinder in it that is like the Remington conversion cylinders where you pop it out and take the back off. And it was originally it would have been converted in the 1860s to 44 Henry, I believe, in a third model Dragoon. And yeah, they converted a lot of them originally. There's actually a lot of pictures on it. I don't have it here in my hand, but Charles Pate's book on the 1860 Army has a lot of pictures of Dragoons that are converted. Pretty sure Haven and Belden has some down there, but my book's so falling apart I don't want to dig it out. But yeah, there's a lot of examples of converted Dragoons. Now, Walkers, that's a little different. I don't think I've ever actually seen a converted Walker. I wish Snapper was still here. He probably has. Let's see. Ethan said, I'm bound and determined to put out one Willock project video per week. Louisiana Gray said, yeah, Ethan, I figure we get a lot of videos out of that new Willock you're working on. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Got about 6 minutes here, guys, till we hit 3 hours. Be a good round number. Still got 40 people in here. So keep on commenting, and we will do our best to make that up. Do be looking for like I said, I'm not completely away from the channel because I still have my Trapdoor series going. I'm thinking within about 2 weeks, episode 2 is going to release if we can get the shooting segment filmed. The sling was the last thing I needed for the Model 1866, and I've ordered it, and it's supposed to be here pretty quick. So big episode on the history of the first 5070 Trapdoor, the Model 1866 second Allen conversion. That's where you get into it'll have to do with the Fetterman fight. It's going to be used at the Wagon Box fight. It's going to be used at the Hayfield fight. It's going to be used in the Modoc War, Southern Indian Wars, Franco-Prussian War, and actually be sent off to France and then brought back and be one of the most popular buffalo guns ever. And so that's going to be a big episode, and I'm looking forward to making that one. That's one of the reasons I quit for the last month, was just so I could think about it. And just thinking about it, I've got a lot of good ideas. And I think we have an actual, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think next week for a video, we will have an actual interview from Jesse, the man who runs the rifle shop, and a tour coming up on the channel. Ethan went down there and filmed some stuff. Louisiana Gray said, betting all your experience on that first pistol, eh? I think he was. That pistol works. It just needs to be finished. At least it sparks. Let me get rid of this over here. Move that from the studio. All right, guys, we're going to go another 4 minutes. 4 minutes to go. Yeah, surprised at how many 5070s there are still around. Yeah, it's because they made a lot of them. They made, I got to stop and think. I want to say they made 50,000 66s. Now I'm going to have it wrong. 55,000. I have to look at the book again. They shipped 27,000 of them to the Franco-Prussian War. They made... Did they make 27,000? Half of those. I have to look again. But and then they made probably closer to 100,000 of the 68s, I think. And they made a couple thousand of the 69 Cadets. And they made about 12,000 of the 1870s. So it's one of the rarer ones. So yeah, there's over 100,000 of them that were made, not counting the parts guns that were made later. Well, there's a lot of 50s around. Yep. Okay, so it looks like we are doing the next Sunday night at 8:30. We will be doing an interview and tour of the actual rifle shop in Oklahoma, I believe. Sunday at 8:30 at night, I believe, is our new release time on that. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see Ethan build that. He's got to build a snap-ons too now. Lock. I'm going to build the rest of it, but he's got to build the lock. So anyway, it looks like everybody's kind of winding down here. We got 2 more minutes to go. And then we will shut this thing down right at 3 hours. It'll be a good round time to do it. Still have 37 people in here. I want to thank you all for coming out and watching, even though for the first half it was just me rambling. I'm sure next Wednesday night we will be on Tales of the Trails with Duke, and I think. And then, and by the way, check out his new channel, Tales of the Trails podcast, guys. He's on his second video having to do with Red Cloud's War. And I made the music for some of it. I didn't make music for all of it, but it was a collaboration. And he's just moving right along. One of the best podcasts I've ever heard. And so check that out. And then, like I said, a week from tonight, probably be Tales of the Trails live show. And then 2 weeks from tonight, it'll be Ethan hosting the Reload show and probably talking to somebody about flintlocks again. Ethan said he has to build a Dutch wheel lock Fowler and a pattern 1776 and the snap-ons and a wall gun. Oh, thank you, Beth Badness. Yeah, Ethan has a bunch of them to build. Hopefully I'm going to be building a 62 caliber rifle too pretty soon on top of building the Snap-on's gun. We'll see how this goes. We may start making a bunch of them. Might be worth making them and selling them. If I can do the woodwork, I'll let Ethan build the locks. I'm not into that metalwork. I don't have the patience for that metalwork. All right, guys, we're going to go on out of here in about 20 seconds. So appreciate y'all for coming on, and appreciate y'all for watching on Duke and Snapper's channel. And I don't know when I'll see you again on the Reload Show, but hopefully it'll be in a month or two. Till then, trust in God, keep your powder dry. Bye.